A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Unto Moses, saying, command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation, and it shall be a statute forever in your generation. The eternal light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our story today is the last in a series of original parables, fantasies, and folk tales by Morton Wishengrad. The play is entitled Jacob's Ladder, and features Juano Hernandez as Jacob, Bryna Rayburn as Bessie, and House Jameson as the narrator. If more people understood that a good many modern improvements have been installed in heaven, more people would seem to be more anxious to go there. What would you say if I told you that about 25 years ago, a man called Jacob Schneider was being considered for admission to heaven? What would you say if I told you that Jacob Schneider was a poor farmer who barely eked out a living on 1 cow and 5 hens, 3 of them in different layers? What would you say, finally, if I told you that this same Jacob Schneider lived on the outskirts of Louisville? Aha, that surprised you, didn't it? Well, don't be so surprised. Even people living inside Louisville have a chance to go to heaven, although the odds are better if you live on the outskirts. In any case, my knowledge of the story commenced when the traffic department received a call.
Traffic department. Jacob who? Spell the name. Schneider. Schneider. I've got it. Right.
You sent for me?
I want a full report on an eminent candidate named Jacob Schneider, place outskirts of Louisville.
What's the medical prognosis?
I don't know. Turn on the cardioscope.
What are the directions?
United States of America.
Right.
State of Kentucky.
State of Kentucky.
Jefferson County. That's up towards the Indiana border.
Jefferson County. Right.
Careful now. South of Louisville. Between Louisville and Oakdale. A dirt road for about 3 miles. A barn, 1 cow, hen house, 5 layers, 3 of them very unsatisfactory. A farmhouse. A man stretched out on a sofa. He's reading.
Here it comes. Listen. I'd say it sounds like an Austin Flint murder.
Yeah, might be. My own feeling is that it's nothing more or less than a microstenosis.
Rather imminent, don't you think?
No question of it. Now, shut it off. I'll go to the files and bring back a complete report. I don't want a summary of Jacob Schneider. I want details. All right, now, let's not lose any time.
That's when I came in. I was in charge of the files. In a way, it was an unusual case, so I think I'd better begin with the time Jacob Schneider came as an immigrant to America. It was during the administration of President McKinley. May he rest in peace. Jacob Schneider had come off the boat, a small man with bony wrists and a pale scholar's face. He carried a few old clothes, a few old books. For a while, he spent his time studying the books. Then he couldn't bear the hunger. He got a job.
Sorry, Jacob, that's the second garment you've spoiled. Get your wages from the bookkeeper.
He tried another job. This one lasted a week.
Here's $1.50. Don't come back.
Even a scholar must live. So Jacob Schneider tried still another job.
You sweep the saloon twice a day. Then you empty the spittoons and sprinkle the sawdust, wipe the table. And don't let me catch you hanging around a free lunch counter.
He could bear that for only 2 days. His fourth job was driving a junk wagon for a junk dealer.
I told you, offer him 15 cents for it. I don't care what you thought it was worth. I said offer 15 cents. 15 cents, not 85 cents. Get down off the wagon. You're fired.
After that, he drifted. Sometimes he walked, sometimes he rode. The clothes he wore got shabbier. He put cardboard in the soles of his shoes. And he carried his books. He was always hungry. In a little synagogue in Louisville, he met Bessie's father. They talked for a while. Then Jacob Schneider nodded his head and agreed. Hunger makes a man do many things.
Jacob, this is my daughter, Bessie. Bessie, this is Jacob Schneider.
I hope you'll like me, Bessie.
Bessie, he's talking to you.
It's all right. She doesn't have to answer.
Sure. But she'll talk. Wait until after you're married.
Bessie, I'm not a young man. I'm a widower. I had a wife in Austria. She died. I think you ought to know.
Bessie, aren't you going to say anything?
It's too bad his wife died.
You don't have to talk like that the first time he comes to see you. This is your house, Bessie. You might say something to him. Bessie, say something to him.
I'm 35 years old. I'm homely.
Go ahead. Tell him the rest. Tell him you've got a tongue that can scrape the skin off a man's back.
I don't have to tell him. Are you going to marry me?
Yes, Bessie.
Because you're hungry? Because you can't find work? Because the farm goes with me?
Yes, Bessie. Because I'm hungry. Because the farm goes with you.
Anyhow, you're not a liar. Smile, Father. Looks like you've finally gotten rid of me. It's all in the wrist. Strong fingers and good wrists. Try it again, Jacob.
I'm tired, Bessie. I'll try to milk the cow tomorrow, some other time.
You'll try now.
I'm not used to the fields and the barn, Bessie. I want to rest.
You'll milk the cow first, Jacob.
We won't quarrel about it. I'll try it again.
The wrists. These aren't the pages of the Talmud. More wrists, you fool.
Bessie, not knowing how to milk a cow, that isn't everything. That doesn't make me a fool.
No?
No, Bessie.
You married me, didn't you? You're a fool.
Bessie, where shall I put this wood?
In the shed where... No, don't put it in the shed. Take it back. It's no good. Now you can pick it up, Jacob.
Since we were married, you haven't said one civil word to me.
Since we were married, you haven't deserved a civil word. You're an incompetent fumbler. Pick up the wood.
Not until you tell me why.
I asked for kindling, not for logs.
I sawed and split kindling until the blisters burst. What more do you want?
Kindling. This is too big. It won't fit in the stove.
You're glad, aren't you? It pleases you, Bessie, when I make a mistake, doesn't it?
Take it out and bring back proper kindling.
No, I've had enough.
The kindling is needed for the stove.
I told you I've had enough.
All right, Jacob, I'll do it myself.
Bessie, I'm sick of you.
Good enough. A bargain can be made. A bargain can be unmade. You can lie down. I'll take care of the kindling.
Never mind, Bessie. Stay in the kitchen. I'll take care of the wood. A bargain is a bargain. Yes.
That's a nasty wound your husband's got.
Just finish the bandage, Doctor. That's all we want.
And that's still a nasty tongue you've got, Bessie.
Congratulations, Doctor. You're still observant.
Jacob, how'd you get the cut?
He was splitting kindling. He was tired. The axe split.
Most accidents happen when people are tired.
That's right. Jacob was tired when he met me.
There are some things you don't say in front of other people, Bessie.
The doctor isn't other people. The doctor is part of the family furniture.
Bessie, some things are only between a husband and his wife.
You're perfectly right. Doctor, turn your back so I can give Jacob the money to pay you.
Bessie, what did they do to you? What terrible thing did they do to you to make you hate yourself so much?
That's the way it was between them. It's all written down in the file. Even a scholar with bony wrists and a pale face, even a man like Jacob Schneider can be stubborn. He remained with Bessie on the farm. He didn't leave. And he began to learn. He even began to learn how to milk a cow without being afraid of the cow.
The rhythm is all wrong. It's 1, 2, 1, 2.
I didn't know you were in the barn.
Don't stop. We need the milk for our customers.
You might say you're glad I came back and tried again.
What for?
I'm not a weakling. If I were a weakling, I wouldn't have come back.
If you were a weakling, I wouldn't have married you.
You had no choice, Bessie.
That's right, Jacob. But I still wouldn't have married you. Even women like me marry a man for something. Finish the milking, Jacob, then carry the pail to the milk shed. I'll show you how the separator works, and don't take too long.
Yes, Bessie.
It is recorded that Jacob smiled. He finished the milking and brought her the pail. He stood in the field under the sun, the scholar whose face was no longer so pale, and he cut down the hay with a scythe. And while he worked, he thought it through. He thought it all the way through. After supper, he said what was on his mind.
You hate me because you are beholden to me.
I'm beholden to no one. Everything I have has been bought and paid for.
That's why, Bessie.
I'm not a scholar. Talk simply. Say what you mean.
Suppose I were a rich man with many servants, and you came to my house. And suppose I prepared your bed with my own hands, because a servant would have done it for my pay. And I wanted to show that I did it for friendship.
I don't understand you.
The good things can't be paid for, Bessie. A hand clasp that's paid for isn't the clasp of a hand. Some things are sold, some things are given. It's the things that are given that you want. That's why you're so bitter.
Is that what you get out of your book?
It's one of the things.
That's why you're a fool.
You haven't denied what I said.
No, I haven't.
Whatever else you do to yourself, you don't lie to yourself.
What do you want to say?
I've said it, Bessie. No one's going to give a thing to you until you yourself start to give.
It's a complicated record. Every man's life is a complicated record. Learning is a cloak to hide ignorance. Laughter is a mask for tears. Hardness is the shield of the frustrated and those like Bessie who are too easily bruised by life. It takes a long time to understand this. It took a long time for Bessie. A cattle dealer drove a herd of cattle on the road past the farm.
Dealer? Oh, dealer.
Oh, good afternoon.
Those cattle, they look worn.
They should be. I've driven them since before daybreak.
They look thirsty. Wait here. I'll get some buckets out, and I'll help you water them.
Well, there's a good deal of work.
Wait here. I'll fetch the buckets.
It's written down. While Bessie stood and watched, Jacob fetched the buckets and pumped the water. Bessie just stood and watched. Jacob watered the cattle. The old cows and the heifers and the calves drank their fill. When the cattle dealer brought a coin from his pocket...
I'm much obliged. Oh, this is for you, mister.
Oh, no thanks.
Well, I won't pay more. That's the regular price.
I didn't do it for you or for your money. They were thirsty.
You talk peculiar.
They're creatures of God.
Huh? Anything you say.
Besides, it was water. Air and water. Those aren't things to pay for. Not yet.
Good afternoon, mister.
Good afternoon.
We're poor people. They offered you money.
It wasn't very much, Bessie.
What difference is that?
It was only 25 cents.
It was that much. You had no right to refuse it.
The labor was mine, Bessie. I did you no injury.
More of your books.
Yes, Bessie. And you're making another mistake. You're bitter because I gave to a stranger. That's a mistake, Bessie. Giving is not for one, nor for a few, nor a few more. Giving is for all.
Is that you, Jacob?
Yes, Mr. Green. Everything all right?
Fine. We'll take only 2 quarts from now on instead of the usual 3.
I'll tell Bessie. She keeps the accounts.
Tell her he must have gone away, or maybe he died or something.
Who, Mr. Green?
That's just it. I really don't know myself, but you tell Bessie.
Well, does she know the man you're talking about?
Don't even know if it was a man. But you just say Mr. Green says 2 quarts will be enough instead of 3 from now on. I see you've left 2 bottles today instead of the 3.
That's what you said, wasn't it?
Sure.
Mr. Green, I haven't been very observant. I've just realized that you've always taken 3 bottles of milk, but you never returned 3 bottles. Only 2. We're always short of bottles.
Didn't Bessie tell you?
No.
Strange woman.
Mr. Green, I'm listening.
I thought you knew. Some time back, 3 or 4 months, Bessie and me, we had us a fight. I ordered 2 quarts of milk. I found only 1 quart each time. She said she left 2, and she wanted me to pay for 2.
That was about the time I was married?
I guess so. Then I found out someone was stealing 1 quart of milk each time. I was going to wait for him with my shotgun. She wouldn't let me.
Bessie?
Sure. She said people don't steal milk unless they're desperate. That's why she's been leaving an extra quart all this time. 2 quarts for me, 1 quart for whoever it is who needs it.
She never said a word.
Strange woman. Never could figure Bessie out.
No. And I thought, I've been preaching to her. Mr. Green, I'm a fool. Here's Mr. Green's money.
Did you count it? People don't mean to cheat you of a penny, but sometimes mistakes happen.
I didn't count it, Bessie.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10. A nickel makes 15, 17, 19, 21.
Don't count the money, Bessie.
Why not? It's what we live on.
No, it's not what we live on. I've been speaking to Mr. Green.
You stand and talk while the milk sours in the sun.
Nothing soured. I just talked to Mr. Green.
Fine. 2 men talking in the noonday while the women work.
Don't be embarrassed. Whoever it was, Bessie, you didn't shame him by giving him publicly. It was very considerate. Happy is the one who considereth the poor. It doesn't say give, it says consider.
I can't abide men who stand around talking when there's livestock to be fed and a barn to be cleaned and kindling to be cut.
Bessie, you know something?
Oh, stop behaving like a child. If you have a question to ask it.
I was thinking to myself, if you didn't pull your hair straight back, if you parted it on the side, sure, I think you'd look pretty.
Jacob,
You don't have to say anything. I know.
That was all. But that was the true beginning of the marriage of Jacob and Bessie Schneider. The other things are all set down here in detail. The rest, well, when people are happy together, there's not much to talk about. They never had children. The medical report says they married too late for it. And now the medical report says that Jacob Schneider is an eminent candidate for heaven. One thing about the cardioscope, it never exaggerates.
It could be an Austin Flint murmur.
No, it's out of the question. It's a mitral stenosis. We'd better determine from the record whether or not he comes to heaven or goes to hell.
From the record, I'd say there's no doubt about Bessie. It's heaven for her, no two opinions about her. But, there are some things about Jacob that disturb me.
Such as?
He was trained to goodness and to charity. It was the Torah and the Talmud that he studied. It was what his father taught him. She was good out of her own goodness. The greater virtue is hers.
I don't know. We can't penalize learning and study. I think I'll go down and talk to Jacob Schneider myself.
Is that you, Bessie?
No, Bessie's in the kitchen.
Well, who is it?
A friend. Your doctor asked me to step in as a consultant.
It's that bad?
You can't complain.
Well, I'm not complaining. I just want to know.
Every man has his time, Jacob. This is your time.
All right. Where am I going?
There's heaven, and there's hell.
What do the souls do in heaven?
They draw near to the divine presence, and they study good works.
And in hell?
There the wicked make retribution for their sins.
Who pities them in hell?
No one, Jacob. Hell is a place where there is no pity. That's why it's hell. Well, where do you wish to go?
I wish to go to hell.
Jacob Schneider, why?
Because I will pity them. Even in hell, there should be at least one being to pity the souls in torment.
Jacob Schneider, come with me.
It was the only answer, and the soul of Jacob Schneider was brought to heaven. If there is pity now in hell, it is because of him and because of his love for Bessie and her redemption from bitterness. I know what this story proves. It means that even if you live in Louisville, you have as good a chance of going to heaven as a man who lives in Des Moines, or Chicago, or Albany, or any other city. Of course, it's only a prejudice on my part, but sometimes I wonder if the odds aren't higher if you live in the suburbs.
If you would like a free copy of the script you've just heard, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York, 27, New York. And now we present a talk by Rabbi Julius J. Nodell of the Temple, Cleveland, Ohio. Speaking from Cleveland, Rabbi Nodell.
It was only yesterday that the scriptural lesson read according to tradition
in every Jewish house of worship, began with chapter 28 in the book of Genesis, verse 10, which tells of Jacob's dream. Jacob had been forced to flee from the house of his father Isaac because Esau, his twin brother, had threatened to kill him. There was Jacob in the desert, alone at night, surrounded by peril, facing an unknown future. The young lad was sorely troubled. What did he do? He took a stone and placed it under his head for a pillow. And that night, with a hard stone for a resting place, a wonderful vision came to him of a ladder that reached to the throne of God, and angels walking to and fro between heaven and earth upon it. A stone, mind you, a hard, rough stone was Jacob's pillow, yet it nurtured one of the grandest dreams ever beheld by man, a ladder to God. Jacob, in other words, converted his fear and sorrow into a thing of supernal beauty. He beheld God in his tears. This is not merely a biblical story written 2,500 years ago on a parchment, for upon the scroll of history, the experiences of the people of Israel have taught the same lesson, that men can transmute suffering into grace and character. Throughout the ages, Israel has been forced to flee the hate of their brethren. Israel has lived through many painful nights, and yet it has always managed to create out of the hard stone of its suffering a Bethel, a house of God, wherever its wandering feet have rested. All men today, like Jacob of ancient days, have borne heavy burdens during the past critical years, and facing the future, are burdened with mental unrest and awesome challenges. Shall we stalk and fret and complain, or shall we too take the hard stone of our problems and build upon it a ladder to God? Evil is not something to accept, but something to work out. Through adversity, man is not trapped, he is tested. And in the end, there is hope. It is faith versus fate. It is the assertion that man is captain of his ship and master of his fate. This is the Jewish idea. It is what we do with the mechanics of life that render it meaning. We add love to a house, and it becomes a home. We add civic righteousness to a city, and it becomes a community. We add truth to a pile of bricks and stone, and it becomes a place of worship. Above all, we add spirit, soul, imagination to our tears, and they become a thing of loveliness and of beauty. A Jacob's ladder linking us with God, with peace. Jacob in ancient times heard the promise, "Fear not, the Lord is with thee." This blessing is for all men today, but only for those who listen.
Thank you, Rabbi Nodell. The fantasy Jacob's Ladder was written for the Eternal Light by Morton Wishengrad. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Catiff. Cantor David Putterman sang the liturgical music. Featured as Jacob was Juano Hernandez, Bryna Rayburn as Bessie, and House Jameson as the narrator. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. This program is a presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations, and comes to you each week at the same time under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. If you would like a free copy of today's script, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York, 27, New York. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Saying, command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation, and it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The eternal light. The National Broadcasting Company and descendant nations present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our story today is Morton Wishenbrad's The Mark of Cain, a fictionalized radio biography of Sophie Irene Loeb. Miss Aline McMahon, distinguished actress of stage and screen, is starred as Sophie Irene Loeb, and Alexander Scorby is featured as the narrator.
Who is it?
Open the door.
Tell me who it is.
It's the police.
What do you want?
You know what I want, Mrs. Peller. I've got a court order for your son. Will you open the door, or do I have to break it down?
You can't have him.
Oh, don't be foolish. The court order says that the boy goes to an institution. Open the door, Mrs. Peller.
I said you can't have my son. The only way you can have him is when I'm dead.
All right. I'm going to break the door down.
Go ahead, officer. I'll be on a fire escape.
Well, what do you mean?
You break the door down and I jump. I said the only way you get my son is when I'm dead. And that's what I mean. Every word.
The year was 1910. The place was a poverty-stricken tenement building in New York City. In 1910, a policeman blew a whistle. A hand pulled the signal on a firebox. The fire truck and police riot cars responded.
Brad the net! Get a move on! I want those life nets, Brad! Cassidy, Anderson, Kaplan!
Yes, Sergeant.
Cover the roof, the backyard, and the areaway.
Yes, sir.
Come on. Costello, get those people back! Get them out of the way!
The sound of the mob, the brute, mindless sound of the morbidly curious, were attracted always by the pain and the shame of the despairing.
Hurry with those life nets! Get a move on, men! Spread those nets!
But, Sergeant, suppose she jumps at an angle. She'll smash herself against the pavement.
Pull that you through. Costello, I told you to hold the people back. Now, get back, lady. You don't belong here.
My name is Sophie Irene Lowe.
I wouldn't care if it was William Howard Taft. Back of the police line.
I'm a reporter for the New York Evening World. I'm Sophie Irene Lowe.
Drop in when I'm not busy. Now beat it, Miss Lowe.
Sergeant, if that woman kills herself, there's a good chance you won't be sleeping well tonight.
What do you want?
Maybe I can persuade her not to jump.
She's gone crazy. You'll be wasting your time.
Well, it's only my time and it's her life. Sergeant, let me try to talk to her.
I tell you, she's hysterical. She won't listen.
Well, what do you lose if I try?
Miss Loeb, she may hurt you.
Well, I'll try not to let her. Sergeant, give me a chance.
Cassidy.
Yes, sir.
Take Miss Loeb to the roof. Show her the way to the fire escape.
Thank you, Sergeant. Come on, Cassidy.
In 1910, Sophie Irene Loeb found one hysterical human life to save. This is how you try to save a human life. The heart pounding, the chest bursting for air, the breath torn from the throat. She raced up the filthy tenement stairs to the roof.
This way!
She paused only for a moment to suck her breath back.
Now, take it easy, lady. From here, you're on your own. Watch your steps.
Don't come any further. You take one more step and I jump.
Teller? Mrs. Teller, I'm your friend.
I haven't any friends. I said don't come nearer. So help me God, don't come nearer.
All right, Mrs. Teller, I'll stay here. Now, please, I'm not from the police. I want to help you.
Nobody takes my boy.
Well, I don't know anything about that, Mrs. Teller. I don't even know what your boy's done.
He didn't go to school. He should have gone to school. He didn't go to
Mrs.
school.
Teller, you're not in any condition to talk. Where's your husband?
Dad, that's where he is. That's Bill.
Why didn't the boy go to school?
Because I have to work, that's why. There's no one to watch him. He gets wild. Is that a reason to take him from his own mother? Is that a reason to send him to an orphan asylum? I'm his mother, his own mother. Who do they think they are? What kind of a city is this? What kind of laws do they make?
You're right about the law. Stop crying, Mrs. Teller.
You're not saying that just because...
No, they're trying to do a terrible thing to you. If that's the law, it's a wicked law.
If you're playing with me, if this is a
No,
trick...
it's no trick, Mrs. Teller. My mother is a widow. My brothers and my sisters, I myself, we were brought up by a widow. I think I know what's in your heart.
What do you want?
Don't jump. That's no answer to anything.
They'll take my boy.
Probably.
They'll send him to an orphan asylum.
Probably.
Then what's the good?
You'll be alive. You'll both be alive. You'll have a chance to get him back.
Not a chance in the world. I know them. They never give you a chance.
I'll help you.
What for? Who am I to you?
Another woman. Mrs. Teller, I'm going to walk down this fire escape ladder.
Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. You fall. I'll give you my hand.
What for, Mrs. Teller? Who am I to you?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Oh, lady. I don't know who you are. But whoever you are, don't let them take my boy. Don't let them.
In 1910, a woman did not lead to her death, and a young boy was taken from his mother and placed in an orphan asylum. It was the law. It was something Sophie Irene Loeb could not prevent. But there is something in an evil law that challenges every free spirit. There is something in social injustice that outrages every free soul and personally affronts every righteous being. And this is our social guilt. The guilt that every honest man and woman carries on his conscience. And this is also the tragedy of every man, to see injustice and to be powerless against it. In 1910, it was the tragedy of Sophie Irene Loeb.
What do you want?
I waited out here for you, Mrs. Teller.
Well, you got what you wanted. Leave me alone.
How is the boy? They wouldn't let me see him.
You tried to see him?
Yes, I did.
Oh, I'm tired. I'm awfully tired, Miss Loeb. They say a boy needs his mother. But a mother needs her boy, too. I just ain't human without him.
Are they treating him all right?
I don't know. They give him more to eat than I can give him.
Does he look well?
Oh, it's just it. He's gotten skinny. He's all dressed up in a uniform. Black shoes, black stockings, black pants, black sweater. All the orphan children in black. Like they're going to their own funeral.
Mrs. Teller, it's my problem now. It's my problem as much as yours. We've got to work it out.
Shut the door, Miss Loeb, and sit down. Want to talk to you.
I'm going to be scolded,
That's right.
Mr. Tennant, has my stuff been that bad?
No, your stories have been good.
Well, then what's the matter?
I've been editor of this paper for a long time. I've known a lot of reporters. Some people can write about anything. Murder, suicide, violent death just rolls off their back. They digest their dinners. They sleep well.
It must be wonderful to be like that.
But you're not like that. That makes you unlucky.
I know. I see Mrs. Peller in my dream.
Forget her. That's good advice.
I can't. I've got to help her.
No, you don't. You don't have to help anybody but Sophie Lowe.
I've still got to help her.
It'll never stop. There are 1,000 Mrs. Peller.
I just want to help her.
Don't kid yourself. You'll want to help them all. It's a matter of glands, and you've got the wrong glands.
When I was a girl in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, my mother used to say, Sophie, your blood isn't redder than anybody else's.
Your mother had the wrong glands. She should have given you the kind of glands that let you mind your own business.
Right now, Mrs. Peller is my business.
And how about the 1,000 other Mrs. Pellers? Watch out, Sophie. You'll burst your cocoon and you won't be a butterfly. You'll be a professional do-gooder. A busybody with straight hair and no sense of humor.
I'll take a chance.
What's come over you all of a sudden?
My mother.
Say it in American.
Oh, I can't say it. She'd laugh at me. Couldn't put it into words. The way she used to light the candles on Friday night. That make any sense to you?
Not even a nickel's worth.
Well, my mother could have been Mrs. Peller. She could have been the one to stand on a fire escape.
Sure, your mother could have been Mrs. Van Aster, and you could have been buying your diamonds by the pound.
Well, I don't know about diamonds by the pound, Mr. Tennant. But I got to help Mrs. Peller.
You won't change your mind?
It's not a matter of mind.
Well, what are you going to do?
Well, first I'm going to talk to some of the other women, the widows like Mrs. Peller, and then I'm going to try to do whatever can be done for them.
I'm sort of wondering...
Yes, Mr. Tennant?
How does it go? The Lord said to Cain, "Where is Abel, thy brother?" Sophie, the whole world is marked with the sign of Cain. Can you cleanse a whole bloody world?
No, Mr. Tennant, I'm not trying to fix the world. I just want to help one woman. A widow called Mrs. Peller.
You're an ignorant fool, Sophie. You're talking about the whole world.
With every despair, a new hope is born. In 1910, there were many men who were despairing, and for at least some of them, Sophie Irene Loeb was a new hope. She accomplished no miracles. She was merely one woman writing in a New York newspaper. She was merely one woman speaking to other women, visiting orphan asylums, studying them, talking to widowed mothers, writing, calling meetings, talking to whoever would listen.
Homes are broken up every day. Sisters and brothers are separated. It isn't enough to use taxpayers' money to build roads and highways. You have to build the children who are going to use those highways. Mr. Superintendent, this orphanage raises misfits. Children just can't grow in an institution.
Madam, what are you trying to do? Abolish orphan asylums?
Well, that is an idea, sir, isn't it? Tell the Assemblyman that Sophie Irene Loeb is waiting.
And your business, madam?
Well, I want Assemblyman McHugh to introduce a bill for widows' pensions.
Sophie, quit it. The world is permanently congealed. It can't be
Well,
changed.
you're wrong, Mr. Tennant. Look in your copybook under Socrates. Nothing is permanent but change.
Don't bother introducing us, Miss Loeb. I know Assemblyman McHugh.
My friends call me, Marty.
Have a cigar, Marty.
No, don't use the stuff. Thanks. Used to be a prize fighter, and I found smoking cut my wind.
Mr. Tennant, Assemblyman McHugh.
Marty?
Marty. Well, it doesn't sound very dignified for an assemblyman.
There isn't anything dignified about an assemblyman.
Marty's going to introduce our bill.
Yes, but don't expect any miracles. It's practically a whole career to see a bill through. It has to get 3 readings in the state Senate alone. 1 reading every year.
The paper will support you, Marty.
I think I'll need it.
Well, I'll support you with facts and affidavits. I can prove that apart from being better, it's cheaper to keep Mrs. Peller's boy at home than it is to raise him in an orphanage.
I'd like to see those figures.
Well, I'll ask Hannah Epstein to send them to you. She's one of my co-workers. She'll give you all the facts you need.
Well, it looks like a fight.
That isn't all, Marty. That's a beginning. When the widow's pension bill goes through, we'll see what we can do about foster homes for children born out of wedlock.
Sophie, one thing at a time.
I know, Mr. Tennant, but there's a lot to do.
Well, private philanthropic agencies may oppose you.
Yes, that's right. In a way, you're taking away their business.
It's everybody's business, because I'm talking about every man's child.
Miss Loeb, I'm standing in your corner. Every man's child, that's it. And what they need and what we've got to give them isn't charity. It's a chance.
Sophie Irene Loeb wasn't alone. She was joined by men like Marty McHugh and Senator George Thompson, by women like Hannah Epstein, by the prayers of thousands of widows. It was a fight for the dignity of human life. Through 1910 and 1911 and 1912, the fight continued to abolish orphan asylums, to provide pensions for widows and allowances for their dependents, to prevent the child of poverty from being regarded as a pauper. And it was Sophie Irene Loeb who focused attention on the plight of the child born out of wedlock.
I am every man's child. I did not ask to come, but I am here. I arrived on this earth like every other child. I have been sent from pillar to post. I have been in many places. I am able-bodied and healthy. If I have the right to be born, I have other rights. I have the right to play. I have the right to have clothes like other children. I have the right to the loving care of people who are interested in me. But I am the ward of the state, society. I am put in a home of 1,000 children, but not the home of one. I am the child of the institution. When I am 16, society will have finished with me. It will send me forth handicapped with the sign of the asylum. Shall all who are born like me suffer the sorrows of no man's child?
With every despair, a new hope is born. Sophie Irene Loeb was a hope for the despairing, for those born into a society which was stained with the Mark of Cain. Behind her, the great state of New York swung into action.
We've got another packing case of signatures on the sidewalk. When do we take it to Albany, Miss Loeb?
She had many allies. There was the governor of the state of New York.
Sophie Irene Loeb, I appoint you to the State Commission of 15 to investigate conditions in European countries to the end that we may learn the best way.
There was Assemblyman Marty McHugh, former prizefighter.
Mr. Speaker, I introduce a measure for relief of widows and their dependent children. Said measure to be known as the Widow's Pension Bill.
And finally, in her there was an inner voice that spoke.
Deliver the poor that cry out, the fatherless also that hath none to help him.
It was an irresistible tide. In 1914, the legislature passed the Widow's Pension Bill. On the same day, the governor signed it, and the bill became law.
Congratulations, Miss Loeb.
Well, thank you, Governor.
I'm also congratulating you as the head of our party in New York State.
What do you mean, Governor?
Miss Loeb, you've got a name. You've won it the hard way. In November, that name on our ticket can be an asset to my party.
You want me to run for office?
Now, here's a list of 5 elective officers. Pick your pick, and you're the official party candidate as of now.
Thank you, Governor.
Which one? Just pick your pick.
None.
All right, I can understand your point of view. If it's something better you want, let me talk to the party leaders. I think we can add to this list.
No, Governor. I don't want to run for any office.
Why not?
Well, you wouldn't understand, sir.
Try me.
There's a woman called Mrs. Teller.
What about her?
Well, there are thousands like her. Next month, 2 months from now, whenever the new county welfare board will reach her name, she's going to an orphan asylum and get her boy back.
I don't understand you.
Well, it's simple, Governor. She's going to get her boy because of this new law. She'll have a little pension money. She'll be able to look after him. And perhaps I'll come to see them, and I'll bring a geranium for the fire escape.
Yes?
Well, don't you see, Governor? I want to come as just plain Sophie Loeb. I want her to say hello to me as me. Not as a public officer. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say, Governor, is that, well, I know I haven't any kids of my own, and, well, I don't want Mrs. Peller to think that I did it for pay.
In 1914, high up in a New York tenement, a geranium rested on a fire escape. And during the years of the First War and the decade that followed, Sophie Irene Loeb continued her work. The things she did not do alone, but with hundreds of men and women like her. And when she died in 1929, it was possible for them to say, she delivered the poor that cried, the fatherless also that had none to help him. The blessing of him that was ready to perish came upon her, and she caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. She put on righteousness, and it clothed itself with her. She lived in a world that is stained with the Mark of Cain, and perhaps because of her and the men and the women like her, there is a hope that one day the stain will be removed.
If you would like a free copy of the script you have just heard, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. And now we present a talk by Dr. Jacob Cohn of Temple Sinai, Los Angeles, California. Dr. Cohn.
Sophie Irene Loeb confessed that her social idealism, and especially her interest in the cause of the children of the world, was largely derived from the religious influences radiating from her pious mother. It has been one of the paradoxes of the human spirit in our generation that it has witnessed this great protective upsurge on behalf of the rights of childhood to a home and security, and at the same time has seen in modern warfare that reversion to barbarism, which made the child the most vulnerable victim of the most modern war machine. The lacerated flesh of little children, whether in London or Rotterdam, in Hiroshima or Nagasaki, has shown the child to be the most defenseless victim of a war waged in an age which had just discovered the claims of childhood upon the adults of the world. The cry of the children, once made beautifully articulate in the lines of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, again rings in our ears. There is no doubt in my mind that the status of childhood in society will become one of the touchstones of our civilization. And there is a fragment of biblical prophecy in which this thought is movingly portrayed. I wonder whether even Sophie Irene Loeb was aware of its existence. I refer to the 7th chapter of Zechariah. Here we find no such eloquent rhapsodies of social salvation as are contained in Isaiah's vision of international peace and brotherhood. This prophet contents himself with words such as these: execute true judgment and show mercy and compassion every man to his brother, and oppress not the widow, nor the fatherless, the stranger, nor the poor, and let none of you devise evil against his brother in your heart. In an even quieter mood, he gives this community, the new Zion, then in process of erection, a name. He calls it the City of Truth. He goes on to describe the main features of the city of his dreams, the stigmata of this redeemed humanity. It is evidently not a city to be known for its sanctuaries and its altars, its priests and its saints. According to the prophet, the city proclaims its grandeur in other ways. There shall old men and old women sit in the broad places of Jerusalem, every man with a staff in his hand for very age. And the broad places of the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in the broad places thereof. It was as simple as that. One can almost hear the laughter of the children in the streets. Only a city in which old age would be secure and childhood safe and happy could be called the city of truth. It will require many warm hearts and much wise legislation until society extends its protecting care over old age and childhood. I should hate to think of the city of truth, as St. Augustine somewhere is said to have described his city of God, the city of which we are always the builders and never the inhabitants. God grant that sometime we may all live in the city of truth. Sophie Irene Loeb was one of its humble builders.
Thank you, Rabbi Cohn. Today's Eternal Light program, The Mark of Cain, was written by Morton Wishentrad. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Katims. Cantor David Potterman sang the liturgical music. Miss Aline McMahon was starred as Sophie Irene Loeb. Alexander Scorby was the narrator. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. This program is a presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations, and comes to you each week at the same time under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. If you would like a free copy of today's script, write to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today's story, American Farmer, is based on the story of Jacob Carlin and was written for radio by Norman Roston. Featured as Jacob Carlin is Edgar Stavey.
Give ye ear and hear my voice. Attend and hear my speech. Is the plowman never done with plowing to sow, with the opening and harrowing of his ground? When he hath made plain the face thereof, doth he not cast abroad the black cummin, and scatter the cummin, and put in the wheat in rows, and the barley in the appointed place, and the spelt in the border thereof? For he doth instruct him aright. His God doth teach him. The earth, mother of life, the soil from which the children of the earth are nourished. This is our story today. It tells of one of the many millions of Americans who chose farming as an occupation, who fought and won the long battle against nature, and in his victory enriched America. Our story is based upon the life of a farmer. His name is Jacob Collins.
I'm Jacob Collins. You want a story about me? Well, now, there's nothing very fancy to tell about a farmer. Farmer just goes along doing his work, and that's about all. Except maybe he stays in one spot longer than most folks. How old would you take me to be? Just finished 10 hours on the transplanter, and I'll take a guess. I'm in my 60s. 33 years of work on this place. From 14 acres of clear land to 120. Mostly potato crop. Some cauliflower and strawberries. Easier now with the boys grown. Easier with tractors and machinery. But there seems to be as much work as before. I could sum it all up with that one word. Work. Work. And not to be afraid of the future. To believe in the future of this country. Yes, that's part of it. Like I said, there's nothing very fancy to tell about a farmer. My life, as far back as I can remember, was connected with a farm, beginning at the age of 14 when I worked for my first summer on a place near New York City.
Well, Jacob, here's your pay. Summer's over. I suppose you're glad.
Oh, no. I like farm work.
Going back to school this fall?
I got a job in the city. Runner in the stock market. Got an exciting life. But just temporary, I figure.
What do you plan to do when you grow up, Jacob?
I plan to be a farmer like you. Only a better farmer. Bigger, more modern.
Oh, think you learned it all in one summer, eh?
No, sir. But I'll be coming back next summer. That is, if you'll hire me, sir.
It's a deal. Keep in shape now.
I will. I go in for boxing on the side. Amateur stuff. It ain't such a bad game. You take in $5 or $10 a fight, and you pay out one.
What's that one for?
Well, you see, when you get knocked out like I do pretty often, you need someone. That bucket's for the guy who throws a pail of water at me. Be seeing you. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and out. The winner, Mike Badowski. I won a few in my time. Nothing special. Strictly bums, all of us, you know. But I had my eye on the future. I wanted to get out in the country and make a start somewhere. You know the saying, go west, young man? Well, we went east. Place called Rosedale, Long Island. I worked 5 more summers on farms, saving my money, waiting. I figured one more summer would do it. I made my plans for that summer, but my mother had a plan of her own.
Jacob. Yes, Mama?
When are you leaving?
Tomorrow. Well, the question.
You're 20 years old, Jacob. It's time you think of settling down. Your father was your age when he married.
Married? Hey, what's the idea? I haven't even got a girl.
I have a girl for you.
Now, look, Mom. This ain't the old country.
Only in the old country people get married?
I mean, here you don't go around arranging things that way.
I didn't arrange. I'm only telling you what Paskov, the peddler, told me. He said in the next town there's a girl works in a candy store, a relative. So beautiful, like a queen. He wants you to meet her.
Okay, it's June. I'll be busy June, July, August. Tell Paskov to make a date for me with this queen for the fall. Maybe I'll have a farm by then. Who knows?
I joked about it. It turned out to be no joke. In the first place, I bought a farm. Me. A farm. A kid, they said. $100 down. In the second place, I met this queen of the candy store. Her name was Rose. It didn't take long to know Rosie was for me.
That's wonderful news about the farm, Jacob. All your own.
Nothing much on it. But it's what you can do that counts. Land is, well, it's dead until you get to work on it.
How much land is there?
14 acres.
Don't you need machinery to clear the land?
Sure. Those things you can buy, but other things, what you can't buy. Someone who wants to be with you, who understands. I mean, someone like you, Rose. Want to?
Want to what?
Don't be dumb. Get married. Come with me. Hey, and don't think I'm asking you because I want to save on help.
I'm not afraid of work, Jacob. I've always worked hard. And I think what you want to do is it's very brave, like pioneering.
Then you do understand?
I understand. I know what you mean.
We got married and left for the farm. Our furniture, you'd count the pieces on one hand, came out in a freight car. It was March of 1914 when I stepped off the train with my bride, and I had exactly $14 in my pocket.
Captain, next stop, we're in
This the town?
Yeah, pretty, isn't it? I mean, what there is of it. Want to go back?
Oh, no, not yet. Not till I see the place.
I like your spirit, Rosie girl. Let's go.
That's the house, I suppose.
Uh-huh. Kind of a one-room shack, really. I got plans to enlarge it, though. There's enough clear land. Place for a vegetable garden right behind the house. We'll get the garden going right away. We won't starve. By the time winter comes around...
Jacob, are you still trying to sell me on this?
Yeah. I keep thinking you're scared.
I am. But now that we're here, on the place, well, we're not going to turn around and go back, are we? Let's go into the house.
Nice day, farmer.
Nice day.
You're Jacob Carlin, aren't you?
That's right.
Come out from New York?
Yes.
Look, Carlin, I don't think you'll like it out here much. We like our own kind of people out here.
What kind of people? With two heads?
You know what I'm talking about.
Sure I know. I wasn't born yesterday. I know all about it. You're trying to tell me to get. Well, I ain't, mister. Took me a long time and long planning to make it. There ain't no law that says I can't. I don't scare easy. Just remember that.
Yes, come in.
My name's Jacob Carlin. I'm on the next place.
I noticed you in the field. My name's Dennis, Tom Dennis. You care to step inside?
Thanks.
Come to find out how to sell?
Sell? No, Mr. Dennis, you have some cows here. I came over to borrow some milk.
Well, that's something I didn't expect.
I'll pay you back.
Whatever you can. How are things going?
Slow?
What crop you putting in?
Cauliflower.
Hard crop.
Maybe. Maybe not. You said something about my coming here to sell.
They generally do in about 6 months. More so-called farmers on your place than I can remember.
Bad farming or bad neighbors, Mr. Dennis?
I know what you're thinking about, Carlin. We've got a few crackpots out here trying to stir up trouble. But most of us welcome you and hold out our hand. Here's mine.
Thanks, Tom. It's going to be lots easier now.
Come out the barn. I keep the milk there. You might want to borrow some too to get your own. Putting in cauliflower, eh? Wish you luck.
Luck's a good thing, but you can't eat it. My first small plant of your cauliflower was all right. But you can't eat cauliflower all the time. And we didn't. I remember all we ate for one whole week was corn. 3 times a day. I never did like corn after that. But we got by, and when the calendar showed the first year, Rosie and I sat down and took stock.
Interest on the mortgage paid off? Taxes paid off? Got that?
Yes?
Paid off for fertilizer. On hand, 1 ton of coal, 100 pounds of sugar, barrel of flour.
And the canned fruit and vegetables, Jacob.
Well, add that too. Now, at the end of the page, the last column, profit.
Profit? Did we really, Jacob?
Profit for the year, $35.
$35.
Will you have a new fur coat or one of those Model T Fords with a folding roof, Mrs. Collins?
Oh, Jacob, such a long year. I didn't ever...
And how rich we are. $35. Come, Rose, let's dance. Right here, a celebration. Come, I'll swing you around.
No, Jacob, no. Oh, Jacob, I'm out of breath. Please stop. You're forgetting I'm with child. If only for this the year was a good year. If only for this.
The years go by on a farm, seasons like days, but there's one problem all the time: work. To work the land, because the land doesn't give by itself. Nature's wild, it destroys. You must study it. Now you take lime and sweet clover. You come to the sick ground and you plow it up and say, open your mouth, take your medicine. Don't say yes or no. It waits. It has patience for years, waiting, till a man comes to it with love.
She's higher this year, Carlin, 1.5 feet.
Good for rye.
Are we going to seed some new acres to oats like last year?
It worked last year.
Worked fine.
Then we do it again, Jonesy. We sow sweet clover. Next year we add allsike and red clover, and we rotate. Keep moving. I used to box 7 years ago. In the ring, it's one man. But out here, this land fights back in 100 ways. While you sleep, while you work, the land never sleeps. You're on your toes or you're on your back, and there's no in between.
It's good land for the right man.
You're working for the right man, Jonesy.
Jacob.
What is it?
You're asleep.
No, I'm not asleep. I just dozed off for a moment.
It's past midnight.
Well, I must finish these crop reports. Oh, there's so much to learn, Rose. I must learn all the time. All the time.
Dying. Whole field dying and no rain.
The only chance is to get water on the field, and the only way is by bucket.
It'll take us all day and next
The
day.
sooner we start, the better. See the moon. She's full tonight, and we can keep those buckets going all night. Let's go, Jonesy. We're not licked yet.
Jacob, is it...
Lost. Yes, the whole potato crop. Every acre of it.
Oh, it wasn't your fault. The bad seed. It was the seed.
Not my fault. Nobody asks whose fault it is. Did you make it or not? That's all they ask. Bad seed, bad weather. Nobody asks. You got a farm and you wait for rain. Well, that's wrong. It ain't scientific. Who's bigger, rain or man? It's wrong, I tell you. There must be a way to beat it.
Oh, there's next year, Jacob. There's always next year to make back what you lost. Be patient.
There's always next year. Yes. Good years and the bad. It's a long, slow, steady pull on a farm. You learn patience. You learn to wait. You clear more land and the crops get bigger. Kids going to school now. You look ahead. The year behind's plowed under. The year ahead fallow, and you plant.
Evening.
Oh, hello, Tom.
Thought I'd drop by. Kind of late, is it?
Not for you. Sit down. No, that chair. Seat's broke. Take that box.
I brought you the magazine. Farm Journal, American Agriculturist, Market Growers Journal, even the Country Gentleman.
That's fine. Tell them much obliged.
Kids in bed?
Yep. 3 big boys now.
Still 2?
If there's more, I don't know anything about it.
You never know what's bound to happen on your place, Jacob. New baby, new heifer, or new wheel plow. When do you sleep?
Oh, I find a little time.
I'll never forget the day you knocked on my door to borrow some milk. Now look at you. Coming up without a doubt.
You jealous, Tom?
Maybe. More than that. I'm proud.
Thanks.
Good to have men around to take their farming seriously. So many leaving, what with the depression and bad prices, rained out or dried out, and it's good to see men stick.
Well, I'm not the only man.
Didn't say you were. You started with mighty little. What's the secret, Jacob?
No secret, Tom. Work and faith. I do believe in God. It helps in many ways. No man's strong enough not to want help. Things aren't always easy for strangers in the community. Some places it's not easy for Catholic, and some places not easy for a Negro, and some places for a Jew. I was a stranger here at first, but I'm winning, Tom, in crops and the respect of the community, and I want both. Out at the farm, I tell time, not by clocks or days. The seasons come and go like a big wheel turning, and the years add up slowly. There's no rest. A machine can rest, not a farmer. A farmer deals with growing, living things. There's no time to rest.
10 acres of potatoes, 2 acres of cauliflower, 2 acres of pickle. I guess the new engine digger and engine sprayer help. What's next, Carlin?
Well, Jonesy, we got 20 acres of cleared land. You see that land across the field there?
I've been going to waste for too long.
Well, I'm going to rent that land and put it to work. What do you think?
Papa, I got a letter. Here's a letter. The mail just brought it.
Oh, thanks, son. Oh, no stamp. Oh, U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington, D.C.
Oh, you're in trouble, Carlin.
What?
Letter from the government always means trouble.
Well, let's open it and see. Dear Jacob Carlin, the United States Department of Agriculture has selected you as crop reporter for your area.
What is it, Papa?
What do you know, Jonesy? They heard of me. All the way down in Washington with all the important business going on. They know about me. Send me a letter. Well, now, there you are. The years go by. Good years and the bad. I built a barn costing $6,000. All mortgage money. But the fact is, well, it was time for a barn. People ride by and see a barn going up. That means something. Jacob Carlin's up to something. Needed a larger house, too. Never forget the time we got the first tractor.
Hey, Pop, can I ride it?
Huh?
Can I drive the tractor? Can I?
At the beginning of something new. The farm needed the machine. It was man's friend. I decided then and there to put my farm on wheels. Get more equipment, more machinery, tool shop, building all the time. The years go by. The children, no longer children, but growing farmers.
Potatoes all in on the north field, Pop. We can start in on the cauliflower tomorrow, Pop, if it's okay with you.
What do you mean if it's okay with him? Who's running this place anyway? Hey, Pop, why don't you retire? We'll handle it.
Might make some improvements while we're at it. We'll try crossing strawberries with pickles, eh, Phil?
The rewards come slowly. The good years and the bad. But there are always new things. Something bigger than the farm. There's the community, the town, the people.
Hi, Jacob. Just driving by. Want to pick up the water pipes? Well, then I'll have them brought over sometime next week. Sure thing. How's the missus and the boys? Fine. Be seeing you.
Thought I'd stop by for a moment, Jacob. Remind you that we meet at the synagogue a little earlier today for the Passover services. My best to Mrs. Carlin.
But I'm not a teacher. How can I teach other farmers?
They're not farmers yet. They're learning to be farmers.
Well, what does it say again, the letter?
It's from the Jewish Agriculture Society of New York. They have classes for people who are going out to farm. They help people buy farms.
Well, they want you to come to New York and advise them.
Nonsense. There's nothing to advise. I won't go. Friends, gentlemen, so you're going to be farmers, eh? And you want advice. Well, then, in general, it won't go easy with you. Everything you learn, you'll have to learn for yourself. Now, look at your hands. For many years, they'll hurt with labor. Money? Forget about money for a long time. It's the places you have to loan from. And so that's my introduction. Now we turn to cauliflower. Cauliflower needs attention. You have to love each seedling. There's no other way. Each seedling must be placed very carefully into the ground and the root covered with dirt. And I thought later, riding home, that here I was, getting to be an old man and teaching the younger ones. In my 60s. And so soon. What did I learn from life? I thought of it later one afternoon when I was planting some young trees, and my grandchild came over and watched me at work.
Is that going to be a big tree someday, Grandpa?
That's right, Joey.
With apples on it someday?
Uh-huh. Lots of apples.
How many years will that take?
Oh, maybe 10 or 20.
Will you be dead then, Grandpa?
I might be. But you'll have the apples. They'll grow for you, Joey. Now, look over there. See that big tree? We eat the fruit from that tree. It was planted by someone as old as my grandpa. Just as you one day will eat the fruit I plant now. Yeah. When you're a big boy, you read it written in the Bible. One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, and the earth abideth forever. You'll know what it means, Joey. And that's what my life means.
If you would like a free copy of the script you have just heard, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. And now we present a talk by Dr. Gabriel Davidson, Managing Director of the Jewish Agricultural Society. Dr. Davidson.
Jacob Carlin's life is full of romance, but his is not an isolated instance. There is romance in the lives of other Jewish farmers, but the real romance of Jewish farm life is more embracing. Surely there is romance in the return of American Jews to the primal calling of ancient Israel. Remember that for 2,000 years, agriculture was a proscribed occupation, that for 2 millennia, Jews had become habituated to city life, with their stock and trade carried on their backs to be moved from place to place when the pressure became unbearable, that most Jews came to the United States from lands where farming was primitive and where the farmer was the serf, that the majority came here without possession, fugitives from persecution, that the transmutation of a Luftmensch from a confined pale of settlement into a free farmer on American soil entailed a dual orientation, a change from Europe to America, a change from petty tradesmen to skilled craftsmen. Note, too, that the present Jewish farm structure is not much more than 50 years old, that it rose during the very period in American history when the trend was in the opposite direction, from farm to city. Remember all this, and you will agree that the many thousands of Jewish families deriving their sustenance from this nation's fertile acres constitute the real romance of Jewish farm life in the United States. It is fitting that the story of Jacob Carlin should be told on the eve of Hanukkah. Hanukkah, the celebration of the victory of light over darkness, of freedom over tyranny. the Hasmonean heroes fought for freedom and for all that freedom implies. And only in a land of freedom can a romance like that to which you have just listened be unfolded. A land where a Jacob Carlin, boy of city streets, can become possessor of his own acres, farm leader among farm leaders, where he and his family can sit under his vine and under his fig tree, and none to make them afraid.
Thank you, Dr. Davidson. Our script today, American Farmer, which was based on the life of Jacob Carlin, was written for radio by Norman Roston. The music was composed by Morris Pomorsky and conducted by Milton Caton. Cantor David Futterman was the soloist. Edgar Staley was featured as Jacob Carlin. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. This program is presented each week at the same time by the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. For a free copy of today's program, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light. This program comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our drama today is Morton Wishengrant's adaptation for radio of a story by Alan Marcus entitled The Girl Without a Name. Featured as Anna is Mitzi Gould. Roger DeKoven is the narrator.
Two people. There was Anna and there was her friend, the girl without a name. Two people suspended upon the margin of life. They were vulnerable, Very vulnerable, because out of the web of their recollection, the memory beyond all memories was the memory of fear. Such little fears as the prosaic sound of footsteps. The girl without a name cowered before the sound of a knock on the door. They held each other by the hand at a whisper outside a window. They were afraid of sounds. They were afraid of silence. They were always afraid. And always it was the simple, the ordinary, the unportentous little things which gave them fright. Like the way a woman laughed. Or the way a man looked at them.
Anna, I'm frightened. I am with you, Sophia. Don't be frightened. Why do you call me Sophia? I have no name. I'm a girl without a name.
But people must have a name. After all, you cannot call a person by the number tattooed on the left forearm. Anna and the girl without a name, they were survivors of the concentration camp of Auschwitz. They were the liberated. They were alike in appearance, bellies equally bloated, eyes equally cavernous, hair equally lusterless, ankles and wrists equally swollen. And yet they were different, for Anna remembered who she was. Anna remembered where she was, what had happened to her, what had happened to her parents, her brothers, her friends. But the girl without a name had been blessed with forgetfulness. She had vomited years of association clearly and bodily out. And she needed Anna. She needed her desperately.
I will call you Sophia. My mother was called Sophia.
It was Anna who had found the little village in Germany.
We will stay here.
You both belong in a displaced persons camp.
Please help us stay here. They will not understand her condition. They will be professionally sympathetic.
And so they found a room on the third floor of a house, a tiny room. An American soldier of the local military government team helped them find it.
Anna, I'm leaving for the States. Before I go, you're welcome to this.
Money?
Sure. Use it the best way you can.
I will use it on Sophia. Danke.
Don't mention it. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
It was a tiny room on the top floor, but it was a new beginning.
Anna, I do not know why I cry. It is a bad thing when you cry and you do not even know what for. All right. You are better. Today you only cried for 2 hours. Sophia, you are much better. Anna, it is dark. I am afraid of the dark. Anna, why is it dark? I'm here. Here is my hand. Anna, why is it dark? It is night. When it is night, it is always dark. Anna, do you know something? What is it? I have not been afraid today. Not even once.
There was an improvement. Anna could even leave her a little while now, but always at night, Anna was there holding out her hand, warding off the phantoms that came in the night. It should have been a life dragged to the extreme, but Anna knew a game which helped to pass the time.
There is this money the American soldier left us. What shall we buy with it, Sophia?
It was a good game. What to buy, where to buy it. It was a very good game. Sophia would smile in contentment. She was improving. Anna could see it. The inconsolable fits of sobbing were less frequent now. She had even begun to evince an interest in clothing. And this was the time that Anna conceived the idea of buying the piece of cloth.
Sophia, how would you like a new skirt? Anna, it is still the game. No, this is a real skirt. What color would you like? The same color as your new skirt. Very well. A blue skirt? All right, Anna. You can have another color.
Yes, Anna.
Red or green? Any color, Sophia.
Anna, you are sure you will get a blue skirt?
Yes.
Then I also wish a blue skirt. I want to get the same as you get, Anna.
Sophia.
You are crying?
No, I'm not.
There are tears in your eyes, Anna. It is because of me?
Darling, someday. Darling, please, someday, want something for yourself. Not because I want it, but because you want it. Just for yourself.
That is why you are crying, Anna?
I don't know. Perhaps. Oh, you wait here. There is some bright blue cotton material in Herr Meyer's window. I won't be gone long. Just stay here and watch out the window.
Anna, Anna, come back soon?
Yes. Yes, I'll come back soon.
In the window of Herr Meyer's shop lay the roll of bright blue cotton. Anna wanted it, yet there was something that had to be conquered before she could enter the shop. Out there on the sidewalk, in the pleasant sun of the warm Bavarian afternoon, out there, for her, there was an undercurrent of terror. Was it the sight of Herr Meyer inside? Yes, it was that. It was the sight of all the faces. It was the nightmare fear that the Americans would leave someday. She had dreamed this in a dream many times. The Americans were gone. She and Sophia were all alone. And then the tramping of many feet and the door of their room broken down in a sea of faces. And among the faces, the Herr Bürgermeister, the man downstairs, the boy who lived across the street, and Herr Meyer.
Ja, bitte.
Herr Meyer, I want...
Yes, Fräulein.
Please, I would like to buy some of the blue material in the window.
The blue material in the window, that is very dear, Fräulein.
I am very satisfied with that material. It is what I've been looking for.
Indeed, Fräulein. Naturally, you have the Marken to purchase the material.
Marken?
Ration stamps. One must have ration stamps before one can buy. My regrets, but that is the system, Fräulein.
From where did her terror of him come? When Herr Meyer pronounced the word Fräulein, a certain inflection came into his voice. It was hardly perceptible unless you were hyper-conditioned to register the smallest fraction. The smallest fraction of what? The feeling of fright broke through, came close to the surface, and drained away. After running 2 blocks in the wrong direction, she thought of Sophia waiting. She wiped the sweat away, and she spoke very reasonably to herself.
Anna, you have a right to get Marken now.
It was a reasonable thing to say to yourself.
You have only to go to the German civil administration and ask in a polite way.
It was very good sense, except for the fact that the idea that she, Anna Berg, might ask the German civil administration for anything.
Anna, don't be such a baby. The war is over. Nobody's going to hurt you.
She was thinking it over, sitting on a bench. Just thinking it over. A young couple passed. There was room for them on the bench, but they passed. Then she got up. If she had looked back, she would have seen them watch her go. She would have seen them circle back. She would have seen them sit down. But then Anna didn't have to look back. It wasn't at all necessary. She had anticipated every posture, every expression accurately, even to the laugh. Anna had known that they would laugh in exactly that way. It was the thought of Sophia, the thought of the girl without a name, that made Anna hurry to the ugly, squat administrative center in the middle of the town.
Bitte? I was sent here to get Marken, to get ration stamps for cloth. That is, I want...
Have you seen Herr Griebel, Fräulein?
No.
All requests are to go first to Herr Griebel. Please do not forget that in the future you are to go first to Herr Griebel. Your name?
Anna.
Your whole name?
Anna Berg.
Polish?
No. Polish-Jewish.
That is different.
For you, it will be necessary to get a written Bescheinigung from the military government.
But my friend is waiting for...
We cannot deal with such cases before we have a written Bescheinigung from the American military government.
Please, I want to buy just a little cotton cloth to make a skirt for a girl.
Fräulein, you must go to the military government for permission. Verstehen Sie eine Erlaubnis? Verstehen Sie eine Erlaubnis? You need permission, do you understand?
If you had read the words in a newspaper or in a book, what would be amiss? Only the tone of voice, the burst of hysterical passion that seemed so ready to break through at any moment. That is not written down in the newspapers or the books. The American soldiers at military government headquarters did not notice the hesitant figure in the doorway. They were playing cards. She waited for several minutes. Then the tall, angular sergeant looked up. His high school German was slow and grammatically weird.
Ja, bitte? What is it you wanted, please?
They talked slowly.
What's Her Royal Highness want? Let's go on with the game. Oh, wait, will you? Just see what she's been through.
The sergeant explained he had no authority to grant the aloudness. He was terribly sorry, but the lieutenant was away.
I will wait.
I wouldn't do that. Look here, Fraulein. It's Friday afternoon. The lieutenant... Well, why don't you try Monday?
Hey, what did you say to her, you lug? She's crying.
Didn't say anything. Just told her to come back Monday.
Yeah, well, that's nothing to cry about, so what's she crying about?
How should I know? Just try to figure some of these refugees out.
Tell her to stop crying.
I want to tell you yourself. I'm not interested anymore.
The sergeant tried to dismiss her. Something stayed him.
Okay, Fraulein, wait a minute.
What are you going to do, mope or play cards?
I've no right to give her any kind of a note.
Let's play cards.
Probably get eaten out for butting my face into it.
Correct. It's your deal.
Hey, Fraulein, take off. We're busy. Scramez-vous, understand? Rouse. Cut that out.
Well, do we play cards or do we gas? I wanted to blow.
She's been in a concentration camp. That makes you pretty tough, doesn't it?
I didn't put her there. What do you want me to do, break down and cry?
Get away from that typewriter.
What are you going to do?
Fraulein, what's your name?
Anna Bed.
Sergeant, you haven't got the authority to do that. Sergeant, you don't know what you're doing. You can't let her go into a store and buy something without ration stamps if Lieutenant Smith ever finds...
I know what I'm doing.
You're nuts.
Okay.
It's your responsibility.
Here, Fraulein.
Sergeant.
Ja, bitte, Fraulein.
Danke, Sergeant. Danke.
Ja, bitte, Fräulein.
The blue cloth that was in the window, Herr Meyer. You said one needed...
Yes, Fräulein.
You said...
What did I say?
It's not in the window now.
No, it isn't. Is this the material?
Oh, yes. Yes, that's it. When I didn't see it in the window, I was afraid that... Here is my paper from the American military government.
One moment, Fräulein.
But here is the paper.
Will not be necessary.
I also have money.
Fräulein, all this material was sold while you were gone.
You said it was very expensive.
Still, it was sold.
Oh.
I regret that there's no more at the moment.
If it is sold, why do you keep it on the counter?
Fräulein, there is no more of this cloth at the moment. A half-dozen persons called with orders for it.
She's waiting for it. I must have it. You don't want to sell it to me.
There was a gloating light in his eyes. Suddenly, she forgot where she was. All she could retain was the terrible impact of the look on Herr Meyer's face, a classic look that she had long been trying to forget. The blue cloth lay so near to her on the counter, her fingers could almost touch it. Before she knew how it happened, a hot hysteria, a kind of madness had come over her. The policeman policeman had been waiting for her to do just what she had done. It had all gone according to plan.
Herr Policeman. Yes, Herr Meyer. I demand that this Jewess be locked up as an attempted thief. Naturally, Herr Meyer. In fact, I'm a witness myself. Come along, Fräulein.
The policemen were very correct. They did not handle her roughly. They were doing their duty. The question of whether Herr Meyer had been truthful about the sale of cloth was not their concern, although it had to be acknowledged that he was deserving of some praise for his obvious strength of character in deciding to sell only to those he pleased. Anna was brought to the jailhouse.
Take her to cell number 4.
It was clean enough, but it was a cell. Only when the door had slammed shut did Anna begin to cry. Sophia, the girl without a name, was beginning to feel afraid. While there was daylight, she held herself against the terror, but when the light began to lower and evaporate, the restirrings of the old, nameless, unutterable terror came back. For a while, she made no outcry. The gloom pressed evilly down upon her. The silence became unendurable.
Anna. 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 Anna, where are you? Anna. Anna, I need you. Anna. Anna.
Her breathing became more and more agonized. Anna, Anna, her heart begged, Anna, where are you? Over and over again. Then it began. Out of nameless dread, out of horror, out of the memory of unspeakable years, it came. Electrically sped through her limbs, veins, arteries. Hysteria burst through her. And from her lips, there burst suddenly a single, unanswered scream. The first scream was at 7 o'clock. Frau Hofstein, who lived downstairs, was rather irritable about it.
My dear husband, it is your duty to inform the Herr Bürgermeister of a crazy Jewess in this house.
I'll speak to him. Meanwhile, turn the radio up a bit louder.
At 8 o'clock, Fräulein Hefner left her second floor with considerable distaste. She was hardly in a proper state of mind for a meeting with her boyfriend. At 5 minutes past 9, Frau Fuchs was almost ready to go upstairs and try to help quiet that Jewish Fräulein, if for no other reason than it was making her husband extremely annoyed to listen to her. By 9:25, Herr Heubner, the shoemaker next door, had given up trying to read. Somewhere around 9:30, Sophia gave a sudden start. A terrific pain and spasm had exploded in her heart. A terrible weakness came upon her. Her strength was withered. Pain engulfed her. Her eyes blurred and closed. A fatal, uneven breathing died out through her lips. Some seconds after 9:31, the heart of Sophia, a girl without a name, stopped beating. For the rest of the evening, the occupants of number 31 Dorfstrasse were able to amuse themselves in peace. It was the next morning that an American lieutenant made his routine jail examination.
I want Anna Berg freed at once. Do you understand? Yes, Herr Leutnant. The poor girl was hardly to blame. Yes, Herr Leutnant. See that Anna Berg is released. Make it schnell. Yes, Herr Leutnant.
The American lieutenant lit a cigarette and thoughtfully forgot to offer one to the jail director. The whole affair worried him.
After all, people like Herr Meyer didn't have much to do with planting the attitude they now possess. You can't even talk to them. It's like bellowing at deaf mutes.
Just about the time the lieutenant reached his office, Anna Berg opened the door to a third-floor room at number 31 Dorfstrasse and started forward with a sudden, knowing shriek.
Gadal v'yiskadash v'nei rabo B'olama divrach irusei v'yamlich malachusei
The funeral was not very large or very long. Of the 11 attending Jews who made up a threadbare half circle, all but one were the sole survivors of what once had been large families. All but 3 were between the ages of 16 and 26. Of the 3 who were older, only one gave himself an outside chance for further survival. And that chance hinged on an American relative who so far had left written pleas unanswered, and hinged on august international Palestine commissions who had also left written pleas unanswered. And all 11 helped to carry the coffin. Anna's knees pressed against the earth. She had no strength to stand in her affliction. The small, desecrated Jewish cemetery absorbed and filled with the brilliant late morning sunshine. The sun came down on all. It beat alike on the heads of busy German peasants hurrying past on the street, on American troops playing with fat, healthy babies, on their inviting, approving, husbandless mothers, on the scrubbed sidewalks, the coppered fields, the chickens and vines and plants in prudent German backyards. And the little group of mourners finished their prayer, turned, and began to file hesitantly out again into the street. Cohesively, keeping close together, the 11 liberated, alive, moved down the street, threading their way through the populous ranks of the beaten, subjugated enemy.
If you would like a free copy of the script you have just heard, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York, 27, New York. And now we present Dr. Lawrence W. Schwartz, Rabbi of the Jewish Community Center of White Plains, New York. Dr. Schwartz.
The story we have just heard so dramatically presented is but one of the innumerable tragedies occurring at this very moment among the displaced people of Europe. There are at present approximately 800,000 displaced persons confined in camps in Germany, Austria, and Italy. Many of these people are survivors of concentration camps, victims of all forms of religious and political persecution and of Nazi terror. Were they to return to their former homes, they would in most instances be returning to persecution and possibly death. Of these people, about 500,000 are Roman Catholics and Greek Catholics. 100,000 are Protestants. 200,000 are Jews. It is almost 2 years since April 1945, when these people were liberated from the Nazi oppression. We are about to usher in the year 1947, and still such tragedies are daily occurrences. How ironic it is that the victorious nation should be doing so much to reestablish the economy of their former enemies, and doing so little to ameliorate the plight of those who suffered most from the war. Is it not discouraging to find that the civilized countries are unwilling to admit to their lands any appreciable number of these refugees? And in the case of the Jews, the homeland, which was solemnly promised to them 25 years ago by the nations of the world, is still inaccessible to them. It is difficult to have faith in the noble expressions of good intentions offered by governments which permit such conditions to continue. And how much patience can we expect of men, women, and children, tortured in body and soul, who are rapidly losing all hope of salvation. The girl without a name has now joined her 6 million annihilated kin. But what are we going to do for the 800,000 displaced persons who are still alive? Will we try to rescue them and give them a chance to rebuild their lives? Or will we just wish them a happy New Year?
Thank you, Rabbi Schwartz. Our script today was an adaptation by Morton Wishengrad of a story by Alan Marcus entitled The Girl Without a Name, which appeared in the November edition of the Atlantic Monthly. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Caton. The narrator was Roger DeKoven, and Mitzi Gould was featured as Anna. Cantor David Putterman was the liturgical soloist. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. If you would like a free copy of today's script, write to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This program is a weekly presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations and comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light. This program comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our story today is a dramatization by Morton Wishengrad of a portion of Ira A. Hirschman's Lifeline to a Promised Land. The narrator is Raymond Edward Johnson.
You feel like the man in a nightmare. You tell yourself. You keep saying it over and over. You keep telling yourself there's a way out. There must be a way out. There's always a way out. That's what you keep telling yourself. You mustn't give up hope. You can't. And then you see it. A door. An open door. You don't rush to it. After all, you're a civilized man. There's a question of human dignity involved. You're quite nonchalant, casual. You don't even walk. You saunter to the open door. It's easy now. What in all the world was all the nervousness about? Nothing but ridiculous hysteria. Why, it's a great, big, wide open door. Why, here it is. There's nothing to it. You're practically out. Sure. Except, just as you get there, it happens. Just like the man in the nightmare. It always happens. Got to find a way out. It's not for yourself. You can bear it if it's for yourself. It's for others. Thousands of others, hundreds of thousands, more than 1 million, 2 million. Men and women and children. Innocent people who are trapped without even the imputation of guilt. Your breath comes heavily now. Sweat is standing on your face. Your chest cavity is too small for your heart. And then you see another open door. And you aren't very casual about it now. No more sauntering. The door has to be open. It has to be held open for them. It must. You must get there quickly. You must hold it open. You must. Hold it! No. Can't be. It's a dream. It's a terrible nightmare. Pinch yourself. It's only a dream. Pinch yourself. But it isn't a dream. You pinch yourself and it hurts. In a minute there'll be a blue mark. It isn't a dream. It's all true. All of it is true. There are many doors. Doors that are ajar. Doors that are half open. Doors that are open wide. But each time you draw near, the door slams shut. Time now to tell you my name. Ira A. Hirschman. But nightmares are things that don't happen. Not in broad daylight, not in full view of the whole world. This is a demented thing. The world isn't demented, is it? Is it? I'm not demented. I'm a rational man. I was rational in January 1944 when President Roosevelt named me Special Attaché of the State Department and told me to open the doors. Open the doors. John W. Paley, director of the War Refugee Board in Washington. Paley put a name on one of the doors.
Transnistria. Hirschman, look at the map. Here between the Bug and the Dniester rivers, the Romanians sent 175,000 Jews and other anti-fascists. Only 50,000 remain alive. Transnistria. Hirschman, see what you can do about it.
So you flew to Ankara because Turkey was a neutral, because Turkey was the strategic window. More than a window, the door, the great, enormous door to the Balkans where 4 million were trapped or already dead. You flew to Ankara. I will say something to you. They say the planet is shrinking. That's a cliche. It took me less than a week to fly between New York and Ankara. But Ankara and New York are no closer together than they've ever been. They are still separated by the distance between two civilizations. In Ankara, I met American Ambassador Lawrence Steinhardt. He was not a meticulous silk hat diplomat. Persons meant more to him than protocol. Steinhardt said,
Hirschman, Turkey could be a funnel, but Turkey is a bottleneck. Only 180 refugees are allowed to come in by rail each week. At that rate, it'll be 200 years before the last refugee passes through.
It was 1944. We were at war. Turkey was a neutral on the side of Germany. But Bulgaria and Romania and Hungary were openly Axis satellites. They were our enemies. And it was my mission to open the doors.
Hirschman, the president has given you extraordinary powers. You're even permitted to negotiate with the enemy.
But words don't unlatch doors. I had to open doors with visas. The Germans slaughtered wholesale. It was ruthless, efficient, and methodical. This is how we, the Allies, obtained one single visa for one single victim of the Nazis.
My name is Chaim Bailash, Jewish agency representative in Turkey. I must have the correct name, address, and date of birth of the refugee. It takes 2 to 3 weeks.
Then he has to send his data to the Jewish agency in Palestine.
I'm a member of the Jewish agency in Palestine. We submit the data to the British Palestine government for approval.
The British authority in Palestine then sends its approval to London.
From London, the authorized list goes to the British passport officer in Istanbul.
From Istanbul, it goes to the British embassy in Ankara.
From the British embassy in Ankara, it goes to the Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
And then, naturally, it must be considered in turn by the military, the police, and other departments responsible for the national welfare.
Finally, the name of the refugee is dispatched to the Turkish consul in Bucharest, Budapest, and Sofia. And if he is still alive, he receives a visa to enter Turkey.
Death becomes much less complicated than living. It was our job to open the doors. We opened them. Ambassador Steinhardt and I were able to reduce the waiting period to a relatively short time, but it is in place to say a word here about the red tape, the inefficiency, and the transparent lack of interest in the embassies. Their bureaucratic mentality, malevolence, and ill will complicated matters as much as did the severity of the statutes. When ships with a desperate human cargo were permitted neither to sail nor to land and were so overcrowded and unseaworthy that they sank to the bottom, there was always this kind of solace delivered in a most cultured tone of voice.
Under the present unhappy situation of the world, it is to a certain extent inevitable that we should be hardened to horrors.
But why did it always seem necessary to reserve the worst horrors for those friendly to our cause? 3 years ago in Turkey, even the thin trickle of refugees had dried up. 80 refugees from Bulgaria were permitted to enter Turkey each week. None came. Why? We were at war with Bulgaria, but Russia was not. I went to Sergei Vinogradov, the Russian ambassador.
Hirschman, I will give you some advice. It is this. You should go home. Among the Bulgarians, Romanians, and Turks, you will get nowhere. You will get only endless postponements and obstacles.
But what is a door if it doesn't open a gap in what has been a wall? I had to stay. At the beginning of the war, the British had agreed under the white paper to admit 75,000 immigrants in Palestine. But the figures were merely statistics.
Sorry, this man has no visa, no papers. He is an illegal immigrant. He cannot enter.
Does the lack of a piece of stamped paper make a human life illegal? These were human lives saved from countries overrun by the Nazi. Would the Nazi himself grant exit permits or transit visas to make the immigration legal? Instead of filling the quota, vacancies were held open for hypothetical refugees with visas, while many thousands of the victims of this technicality were sent back to Axis countries and went to fill waiting graves. Listen, this is Breckenridge Long, Assistant to the Secretary of State.
Literally, the records of the reports of the consular officers to the State Department form one of the most saddening and awful pages of our humanitarian history.
This is also the proper place to single out for praise the names of Alfred C. Mabey in the British Embassy and former United States Consul General Burton Y. Berry. Their service went beyond government. They served humanity. I learned things. Once there had been hundreds of visas for children. And for 2 years, the children had been herded along the borders of Bulgaria while the visas had either been lost or pigeonholed. These were wandering children, little hungry children who had been trapped once and escaped, and sometimes trapped a second, a third, and a fourth time. What a civilization that does not offer sanctuary even to helpless 6- and 7-year-old children. I made a determined effort to find their visas. I went to the Turkish officials.
Excuse me, please, but we do not have the visas here. Very likely they're being withheld in Sofia by the Bulgarians.
I went to the British.
There is a strong likelihood that the visas have been delayed by the Turkish embassy in Ankara.
In desperation, I sent an urgent request for help to the War Refugee Board in Washington.
From Special Attaché Ira A. Hirschman in Ankara to John W. Paley in Washington, D.C. Can you obtain cooperation from London through top levels? Urgently need to locate lost visas for homeless children along the Bulgarian border.
London to British Embassy in Ankara. Take parallel action to aid Hirschman in matter of visas for homeless children.
I do not know what means Paley and his colleagues used, but suddenly the visas turned up in the British Embassy, where they had been on ice as a result of a technicality. They were quickly approved. Within 3 weeks of my arrival in Ankara, 4,500 children who had been approved for admission into Palestine as long ago as 1942 began to leave Bulgaria for Istanbul. They came along a thin lifeline. 100 children a week. It was a start, and it served to invigorate both Ambassador Steinhardt and me. That was one door unlocked. Now it was time to open a second door.
The Turkish government has been issuing transit visas through Turkey on the condition that the refugees leave Istanbul within 24 hours of their arrival. The Turks have stopped all entrance visas because many refugees are staying longer than 24 hours.
I looked into it. I spoke to a refugee.
It's true. I don't want to stay in Turkey. But how can I leave for Palestine when I have no permit to enter?
I went to the Turkish government.
Until they get out in 24 hours, as per agreement, no further entrance visas will be issued.
But how can we get out when we are denied transportation facilities and entry visas?
Round and round. A merry-go-round made of slamming doors. The Turks made a demand. It was logical and justified.
We want a letter from the British government guaranteeing that all refugees entering Turkey will be permitted by the British to leave Istanbul for Palestine.
And here was the bitter irony. The British government had not refused the required commitment. The British government had, in fact, prepared the letter and sent it. The trouble was...
The letter has been mislaid somewhere.
I had the letter located. Again in the British Embassy. And another door, another small door began to open. I'd been going round and round in a seemingly endless circle of frustration. I'd run to a door only to find it shut. I'd felt like the man in a nightmare. The doors had slammed in my face. But now they were beginning to open. And a trickle, a faint, pathetic trickle was beginning to go through. Now it was time to turn to the bigger jobs.
Transnistria. Hirschman, look at the map. Here between the Bug and the Dniester rivers, the Romanians sent 175,000 Jews and other anti-fascists. Only 50,000 remain alive. Transnistria. Hirschman, see what you can do about it.
The Romanians had proved no less efficient than their German allies in persecuting their own people. It was a race against the devil.
Hirschman, these men and women and children in Transnistria are prisoners of the enemy. In other words, you've got to sit down with the enemy and negotiate.
And this was the time when American flying fortresses were bombing the oil fields at Ploiești and making a shambles of the city of Bucharest. It was flying in the face of reason to think that an enemy whom we were destroying would consider any suggestion regarding his own nationals. Under our law, it is a crime against the government of the United States for an American citizen to consult or negotiate with the enemy in time of war. Even ambassadors are subject to this law. But when I had arrived and Ambassador Steinhardt had read my credentials, the first thing he had said to me was,
"They have given you the broadest powers of any envoy that I have known. You're even permitted to deal with the enemy."
A direct approach involved infinite hazards. We were not sure of the Romanian minister, Crețianu. Ambassador Steinhardt and I planned every step. We spoke first to Gilbert Simond, Ankara representative of the International Red Cross.
Mr. Simon, we would like to know whether Minister Crețianu of Romania would be interested in talking with a representative of the American government.
Yourself?
No, Mr. Hirschman.
And the subject of the proposed conversation?
Exclusively on the subject of refugees.
Can such a meeting be arranged? Everything is possible, sir.
Telephone could not be trusted in this delicate work. 2 days passed.
Mr. Hirschman, may I suggest that you pay me a friendly visit at my home this coming Saturday? Mr. Graziano will be there at 5 o'clock. May I suggest that you come 1 hour earlier?
On the hour set for the rendezvous, I slipped into Simon's home. The little sitting room was almost hermetically sealed by blinds. There was a grand piano. While waiting, I tried to loosen my tension by playing some pages from the Beethoven sonata. My fingers trembled. Beethoven was badly served. But the soaring spirit of his music served me well at the moment. The notorious Death Valley of Transnistria seemed far away, and its forced marches, its cruelties, and its merciless destruction of innocent men and women and children seemed incredible. I played while Gilbert Simon paced the floor. Promptly at 5 o'clock, he was there. Alexander Graziano entered. We exchanged cards.
Mr. Hirschman, do you mind if I take notes?
He spoke English well. He poised pencil on paper. Then I spoke. Mr. Graziano, the American government is outraged by the reports we have received of the massacre of your own citizens. Graziano listened with non-committal politeness. He was a handsome man with charming manners. His father had once been minister to the United States. We had reason to believe that Alexander Graziano was ideologically sympathetic to the Allies.
What precisely do you want, and what do you offer?
First, we request that you abandon the disease-ridden camp at Transnistria at once, and that you return the remaining 48,000 refugees to their homes.
Continue, sir.
We ask, second, that you release 5,000 children from Romania, that you facilitate their passage to the port of Constanta on the Black Sea, that you provide exit certificates for them, and that you expedite the debarkation of ships which will carry them to Istanbul and then to Haifa, Palestine.
Is there a third point, Mr. Hirschman?
Yes. An end to persecution in Romania and the repressive acts against your own minorities.
It is not impossible, Mr. Hirschman. I promise to recommend these measures warmly in a telegram to Bucharest tonight. Mr. Hirschman, what do you offer in return?
It shouldn't be necessary to offer anything to a government to have it free its own citizens.
Then you offer nothing?
The goodwill of the government and the people of the United States of America. These moves will receive widespread publicity in the United States and will serve as a significant indication of the change in the policy of your government away from the Nazis.
Yes. Yes, I understand.
In all my life, I had never watched a man's face so intently. My eyes had been on his face for nearly 3 hours.
I'm interested, Mr. Hirschman.
Good. Mr. Graziano, I understand that your father made a brilliant record in Washington. Who knows but that the tradition may continue in better times when we are at peace.
I shall telegraph Antonescu with all urgency and warm recommendation.
One week later, I received an urgent call from Gilbert Simon.
Mr. Hirschman, I wonder if you could come over immediately.
I rushed to his house. 5 minutes later, Graziano hurried into the room. His hair was somewhat disheveled. He had been running. He was still out of breath. But to Simon and to me, he read from an incomplete telegram.
From Antonescu. Instructions have been issued to General George Patopeanu to break up the camp in Transnistria. The 5,000 children will be assisted in reaching the port of embarkation. All persecutions will cease forthwith. Telegram ends here. I did not wait to decode the rest.
He turned to me and to Simon. His handsome face was flushed, and he said quietly,
I am reminded of an old Romanian proverb. To give quickly is to give twice.
Ah, but that is much better in the French. Qui donne tôt donne deux fois.
We smiled at one another. Because of what we had just accomplished, people would live. Romanian anti-fascists of the Jewish and Christian religions. Graziano said goodbye, and his last sentence has never stopped ringing in my ears.
Hirschman, you should have come before.
The doors are still shut. The war is over, but the work is barely begun. The doors open for a little while, and then only for a few. Now they are virtually bolted. On a July day in 1944, I stood at Istanbul Harbor with Joseph Levy of the New York Times and Dr. Judah Magnus of the Hebrew University in Palestine. We saw 256 children from Transnistria literally hanging from the rigging of the vessel that brought them. We saw them trudge silently to the special train. Here they were at last. Only a few hundred, but children. Not numbers in a report adding to fascism's statistics of death. Living human beings ready to live again. Marching from hate and persecution toward freedom and hope. We onlookers, we gazed at one another. Before our eyes, we saw a fragmentary segment of a long time in a pilgrimage of men. Maybe it was some instinct for the survival of the human stream that led us to make children our special concern. Looking at a clod, one can imagine the earth. Looking at a child's face, one can see the face of mankind. We were in a quiet mood. The train left, and the ferry carried us back. The night shadows slid across the waters. The world seemed to yawn, and the shadows of the masks made fantastic silhouettes on the shifting waters. Arabesques that looked for the moment like mocking figures. The world seemed very tired.
If you would like a free copy of the script you have just heard, write to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. Our drama today by Morton Wishengrad was based on sections of Ira A. Hirschman's recent book, Lifeline to a Promised Land. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Cagins. The liturgical introduction was sung by Cantor David Putterman, and Raymond Edward Johnson was featured as the narrator. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. This program is a weekly presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations in cooperation with the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. For a free copy of today's dramatization, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our story today, based on the life of a Czechoslovak rabbi now in America, is entitled An Ordinary Megillah, and is an original dramatization by Arnold Pearl. The narrator is Alexander Scorby, and Miller is played by Roger de Koven.
Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, that is, Ahasuerus who reigned from India unto Ethiopia, that the king did promote Haman, and advanced him above all his princes. And they bowed down and prostrated themselves before Haman.
These are the words with which the Megillah of Purim begins, the scroll of Esther.
And Mordecai wrote unto all the Jews that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar, and the 15th day of the same.
But this is not the 14th day of Adar or the 15th. Why, then, you ask, do we talk of the Purim Megillah today, already 3 days late? Because perhaps we must at all times, and especially today, renew our beliefs. Or, when you read it, perhaps the Purim Megillah, you thought only of Shushan, the city of Mordecai, and not of today. Perhaps it was evening, and you were tired, and there was marketing that day. The children had cold, Rachel a fever of 104. And you did not think there is never a time the story of Esther should not be read. And then another reason. This is a particular Megillah, this. The story of a Megillah in the 5th decade of the 20th century. Rabbi Miller's Megillah. Now, the Megillah was an old Megillah written in the hand of a famous scribe in the time of the grandfather's father of Rabbi Miller of Senec, Czechoslovakia, a little village near Pressburg. And the words, as you have heard, were the words of all Purim Megillahs. It was in all respects an ordinary Megillah. But that Purim there in Senec, a few years back, a decade, it was read with a special joy.
Shoshanas Yaakov, Tzahalav Esamecho, Birosam Yaakov.
It was a Purim of Homintash and laughter, of Shoshanas Yaakov, the song of the rejoicing of the house of Jacob. A Purim of friendly warmth and groggers. What are groggers? Groggers, please. Unfamiliar? I'll show you how it works. Rita.
Ready.
All right. Demonstration, please.
Then Esther said, Let the king and Haman come to a banquet, which I shall prepare.
ומרדכי יושב בשער המלך.
And in the king's gate stood Mordecai, and he stood not up nor moved. And Haman was filled with wrath against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman refreshed himself, but instead went home. And Haman fetched his friends.
A noise that shows we don't like Haman. Clear. Good. It was, I said, a Purim of Hamantash and Groggers and laughter and triumph. A happy Purim. Well, who knew in senates that Purim the events of the next few years? Not Rabbi Miller, certainly.
Rivela, wife of Naphtali, you're well named.
Thank you, Rabbi Miller.
Rivela the Sweet. You're an artist, an absolute artist.
You like them?
Believe me, such Purim sweetmeats I never tasted. A genius, an absolute genius.
You didn't hear what Naphtali said, my husband Naphtali?
He complained?
He said to me only this morning, Rivela the Sweet you are. Why couldn't you be Rivela the Baker?
Meaning what?
Meaning, why can't I make the challah, the Sabbath bread, like I make Purim cake?
It would be nice.
Oh, he means more, however. Why can't I make sponge cake and knishes and potato latkes? Why only Purim cake?
Rivela, tell him for me. Ask him, if the moon is not also the sun, is the moon any the less?
It was still possible to celebrate a happy Purim. But July of 1940 was different. July was Haman's month. July was the month of occupation. July of the 20th century, Haman took over senates, took over half of Europe. The order was the new order, the proclamation simple. To the women, go, disperse, disappear, die, do so immediately. To the men, 1 hour with your family, then the forced labor camps. A man, 40, and his wife. 1 hour. A man named Rabbi Max Miller and his wife, Sarah.
All the furniture, Max.
Leave it, and the books.
The books. All the books, the Bible, the Mishnah, the Talmud.
Can you carry them, Sarah?
No, but maybe some.
Where I'm going, some food, and that's all.
I could carry more than...
Abraham, Moshe, Chaim, Rose, Yitzhak, 5 children are enough to carry. The little one, 6 months old.
And you? The Megillah.
I'm taking the Megillah.
They'll take it from you. They'll beat you.
I'm taking it.
It isn't bad enough you're a rabbi.
If they'll beat me for being a rabbi, let the rabbi have a sacred book with him.
Max, don't.
On those shelves, Sarah, I'm leaving what? Half my life. All I ever loved and that was written down in 4,000 years. They won't find the Megillah.
But why must you? Why?
Bitochon, Sarah. Bitochon.
The word is bitochon. It means faith. Yes, but more. It means certainty, assurance, trust, security. And more than that, it means leave a little to God. This is bitochon.
Bitochon, Sarah. Bitochon.
He rolled the scroll tight, and it fit inside his coat or in the little knapsack they allowed him to carry. It fit. They didn't find it. He kept it with him, an ordinary Megillah that his father's grandfather had from the scribe, containing no more, no less than the story of Esther. He kept it. There were 3 Purims. The first in 1941. The Purim in the labor camp.
Then Haman said, all this availeth me not, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew at the king's gate. Let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and in the morning speak thou to the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon.
And 1942, the Purim in hiding, the Purim in the attic of an old friend's house. For Rabbi Miller escaped from the labor camp. And in the old attic, they read the Megillah.
Now when Mordecai knew all that was done by Haman, he rent his clothes, and put on sackcloth and ashes, and went into the midst of the city, and cried with a loud and bitter cry. And in every province there was great mourning among the Jews.
And in 1943, they were all in a ghetto. The women in one section, the men in another. And once in 4 weeks, he saw his wife. But not his children, for he could not risk that. The children of rabbis were a special joke for the Nazis. And that year there was no reading of the Megillah. It was impossible. For they came at midnight.
Men 18 to 48 years to the wall. Men 18 to 48, left face. Men 18 to 48, march!
Where am I, Miller? Another camp. How do you know?
I know.
Did you see your wife?
I kissed her for the last time. Last night.
How do you know?
I know.
Have you got it?
Yes.
Where?
My right leg. Can you see it?
No.
You're sure?
It's like it's a part of you.
It is a part of me, Chaim.
Men 18 to 48, halt! Men 18 to 48, into the cattle cars. Close the doors. Lock them. Start the train.
In a cattle car with room for 30. Nothing to eat for 3 days. No water. Then, one stale loaf of bread thrown in for 90 men. And then no water. No water. Men fighting like beasts and dying like animals. All the long ride from the prison camp to Kaufering. Kaufering. A name to set beside Dachau and Belsen and Auschwitz.
Kaufering. Kaufering. Kaufering!
In the huts of cardboard surrounded by the electrified barbed wire, 30 lived where 9 would have stifled. Each wind beat them, each rain drenched them. Each straw heap lay foul and hot next to the other. And there were 2 miracles each morning.
We're alive, Chaim. Alive.
Why?
Because we aren't dead.
That was one.
Where is it?
The straw.
Why do you keep it?
You said it yourself. It's a part of me.
It's really there. You're not saying it.
It's really there.
2 miracles each morning. Being alive and the Megillah. And then, because the Nazis are thorough and because they are scientific, they searched the straw.
Up! Get up!
What?
Get up! What's in your straw?
Light.
Get up! Nothing in the straw. Do you hear me? Keep nothing in the straw.
Man gets to like his life.
What did you do with it?
He was standing on it.
What?
He was standing on it. I buried it last night.
How?
A man has hands. A man's hands are for other things. But a man has hands.
And then they were sentenced to the cement works. The young man Chaim and the Rabbi Max. Sentenced, for no one had ever lived beyond a month in the cement works. Up to the chest in cement you work. And if you slip, you slip. And if you do not slip, a guard will help you slip. There is a day shift and a night shift in the cement works. The day is 3 a.m. to 9 p.m. The night shift, 3 p.m. to 9 a.m., 18 hours. And Rabbi Miller said,
I pray for only one thing.
What?
Next week, that we work the day shift.
Is it better to die in the daytime?
Purim is next week.
Purim?
Purim 1945. If we work the day shift, we can read the Megillah in the evening.
What for? What for?
To read the Megillah as the commandment says.
What difference does anything make?
It doesn't bother you if I pray. So then, I'll pray at the day shift.
It was the day shift. And 18 hours later, finally, night came. The night of the 14th day of Adar. It came. They returned from the cement works nearly dead. They were given 3 minutes to get into their straw, and then the lights went out.
This is the night of Purim. This night.
I do not try to interpret. I only tell what happened. But that night, in each barracks, a package came. And when it was opened, The Nazis had thrown them in the doors.
Rabbi Miller, look. A Red Cross package. Food.
I do not try to interpret. I tell what happened. There it was, a few sardines, cigarettes, sugar. They divided it up among them. They let the sugar pour into their mouths slowly and felt the strength and warmth go into their muscles and into their minds. To those who were the cigarette smokers, they gave all the cigarettes, except each man kept one.
One cigarette for each of us. We'll keep it for after the reading of the Megillah in honor of Purim, in honor of the hanging of Haman.
They ate their Purim feast, sardines and sugar. And then all of them felt it, some more, some less, but all of them to a degree, that it was right and fitting to read the Purim Megillah that evening.
There is no light.
There's even light.
A candle.
Beryl works in the kitchen, a candle for Purim. Wasn't asking so much. Light it higher. And then as they all watched, he lit the candle. He dug into the earth and took out the Megillah he had carried so long. He opened the scroll and spread it out in the dirt.
Don't read it. Isaac Mendel is dead. Moses Menachem is dead. Heschel is dying. Benjamin they hung. Tomorrow we're all dead. Don't, Rabbi Miller, don't.
ויהי בימי אחשוורוש, ואחשוורוש, המולך מהודו ועד כוש.
Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, that is Ahasuerus, who reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 127 provinces, that the king did promote Haman the Agagite, and advanced him above all his princes. And they bowed down and prostrated themselves before Haman. But Mordecai bowed not down nor prostrated himself before him.
Your wife is dead, Rabbi Miller. Your children have been burned at Auschwitz. Don't.
And the king loved Esther above all women, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen.
Who is Haman? What is Persia? What is a gallows 50 cubits high compared to this? Persia is a paradise, and Haman is a saint.
So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said, Whatever thy petition, Queen Esther, it shall be granted thee. Even to the half of the kingdom it shall be performed. Then Esther said, If I have found favor in thy sight, O king, let my life be given me and my people at my request, for we are sold, and I and my people to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. Behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman hath made. Behold the gallows which Haman hath made for Mordecai, who spoke good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman. And the king said, Hang him thereon. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that were prepared for Mordecai.
And where is our Esther? Where is our Mordecai?
And Mordecai commanded concerning the Jews that the king had granted them in every city to gather themselves together and to stand for their life, and to destroy and to slay and to cause to perish all the forces that would assault them, their little ones and women. And Mordecai went forth in royal apparel of blue and white, and with a great crown of gold. And the Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor.
Stop it. Stop it, do you hear? Stop it.
This is the Purim Megillah, Chaim.
We're dead. You know it and I know it. What did the gods say? No matter what happens, no matter what, we die, all of us. They said it, us. You heard them. Stop it.
When the children of Israel were in bondage in Egypt, Chaim, Moses appeared. When they stood at the Red Sea, the waters divided.
These are Nazi bullets. Nazi machine guns. Nazi ovens.
When Antiochus had all but extinguished us, Judas Maccabeus was sent. When the remnant in Babylon was doomed, Ezra came.
This is Hitler Germany. This is 1945.
Yet the Red Sea divided, Chaim. Antiochus was routed, and Haman was hanged on a gallows 50 cubits high. They put away the Megillah for that night. And by then the spirit of Purim had called forth their tears, and they had hope suddenly. And Rabbi Miller talked, as it might have been in 1935, or 1870, or years hence. There was a proverb in my village of 3 reasons why God brought about Purim. That the Jews of Esther's generation might be saved, that the Jews of other generations might rejoice, and that Naphtali might earn enough to see him through Passover.
Naphtali?
He ran the Purim plays in my village. He had a son, Noah. This Noah. They called him Noah the wastrel, Noah the no-good, Noah the fool, Noah the this, and Noah the that. And then one year, Noah started carving. What are you carving? Asked Naphtali. Nothing, said Noah. Fool, said his father, and he took the carving from Noah and shook it, and it made a noise like a rattle, like a very fine grogger. And Naphtali knew he could sell the groggers for 3 kopecks each, and would have enough to tide him over Passover. So he changed the name of his son from Noah the Wastrel to Noah the Genius. In the cardboard shack in the midst of death, they smiled. Call it Galgen tumor, as the Jews call it. Laughter of the gallows. But it sustained them. That and their faith. That and the legends and the songs. And they waited. 3 weeks later, I only report the facts as I know them, the Americans came and they were freed. Rabbi Miller dug up his Megillah and went out into freedom. And as you know, the 20th century Haman, who was called Hitler, is no more. And the lesser Hamans, those were hanged in Nuremberg, almost as it is written in the ancient story. When he learned for certain his wife and children were dead in Auschwitz, Rabbi Max Miller came to America with his Megillah, and you can see it. It is to be seen. An ordinary Megillah, very plain, and you can see it. In it, you can read these words.
Therefore, the Jews ordained that they would keep these 2 days, and that these days should be remembered and kept throughout each generation, every family, every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed.
And we sing the song of the Shoshanas Yaakov, the song of the rejoicing of the house of Jacob.
Shoshanas Yaakov, Nahalo Beis Amecho, Birosam Yachad, Epelet Mordechai, Lehodim.
Thou hast ever been Israel's salvation and their hope in every generation, to make known that all who hope in thee shall not be ashamed, neither shall any be confounded who put their trust in thee.
If you would like a free copy of the script you have just heard, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. And now we present Dr. Edgar F. Magnin of the Wilshire Boulevard Temple, Los Angeles, California. Dr. Magnin.
It is a pleasure to say a few words on the Eternal Light program. This program has made a place for itself in the minds and hearts of Jews and Christians all over the United States. Millions of people on the Pacific Coast look forward to it every Sunday with very great eagerness. The theme of the play today has pointed up the meaning of Purim, the Feast of Lots. The story is found in the book of Esther and describes the futile attempt of Haman to destroy the Jewish people. Haman was the precursor of all the Hitlers of all the ages. And like all the Hitlers throughout all the ages, he was destroyed himself. The reason Jews have survived is because those who would destroy them were men who would also destroy civilization. And civilization refuses to be destroyed. Jews have lived for a purpose, a divine purpose. They have preserved those ideals which are necessary for the survival, the happiness, the security, and the peace of mind of all mankind. I pray that the day may come when the Hamans of this world will be few and far between, when people will have sufficient intelligence and decency to know that they do not benefit themselves, much less others, when they go out to hurt innocent people. We pray for the day when real religion will enter the minds and hearts of all, so that it will operate in daily life, rather than in mere lip service and pious platitude. When that day comes, there will be a great Purim on this earth, a day of great rejoicing. Thank you, Dr. Megan. Our Eternal Light drama today, An Ordinary Megillah, was written by Arnold Pearl and featured Alexander Scorby as the narrator and Roger de Koven as Miller. The Megillah referred to in our story may be seen in the collection of the Library of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. The music is composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Caton. The liturgical introduction was sung by cantor Robert H. Siegel, and the entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. For a free copy of today's script, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This program is a weekly presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations in cooperation with the Jewish Theological Seminary of America.
Theological Seminary of America. For a free copy of today's dramatization, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamp to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The Eternal Light.
The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our story today, Out of Their Bondage, was written by Hedda Rosten and is based on an incident of the life of Norbert Mazur. The role of Mazur is played by Peter Capell.
And it came to pass, in the course of those many days, that the children of Israel sighed by reason of their bondage. And they cried, and their cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage. And God heard their cry.
All this is remembered in the season of the Passover.
And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people that are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their pains, and I am come to deliver them out of the hands of the Egyptians.
The echo reaching us down the centuries with the lamentation and the glory of the Exodus by which the Jews were delivered out of the hands of the Egyptians, and through years of wandering came to the land of Palestine. All this is remembered on the days of Passover. And the children of Israel many times since have sighed by reason of their bondage, and their cry came up unto God even as the whips of their new taskmasters bled them. There was the Egypt of the years 1933 to 1945, and of the new pharaohs there was one whose cruelty sprang from the evil of Haman. There was one name so terrible it was whispered throughout the hated land of the Nazis. Heinrich Himmler, the murderer Himmler. Himmler the unspeakable.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Rise up early in the morning, and stand before Pharaoh, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God of the Hebrews, Let my people go, that they may serve me.
And centuries later, out of the new Egypt, there was another Exodus. Why do we tell this story? For the Haggadah of Passover enjoins us that in each generation we must retell the story of the bondage, as if we ourselves had been redeemed from Egypt. In the spring of 1945, Norbert Mazur, a member of the World Jewish Congress, called at the Swedish Foreign Office.
Come in, Mr. Mazur. Sit down. Good to see you again.
Have you read the papers today?
You mean the war goes badly for the Germans? Yes. The Rhine breakthrough, the Russians at the Elbe. Perhaps it'll be over soon, you think?
Soon. But not soon enough. Each day, thousands more die in the German camps. You know this.
We've done everything we can. The influence of the Swedish Foreign Office...
You've helped very much. We are grateful. Sweden was one of the few nations to reach out its hand. Because of you, many of us are now alive and safe. Yet we must ask your help again.
What more can be done? The German military position is hopeless. They will lose. The world knows it. The Germans know it.
Exactly. Rather than let the camps fall into the hands of the Allies, Himmler may order a wholesale slaughter of all the prisoners. It must not happen.
But how can we?
I ask your permission to send a representative to Heinrich Himmler.
To Himmler?
Yes, to Himmler.
But, my dear friend, it's too fantastic.
Perhaps. Perhaps not. He is ruthless. But like all men of his kind, he is a coward. We must take that chance.
To plead with a man responsible for the death of 6 million Jews? Really, Mr. Mazur?
Remember that the persecuted have a power greater than their persecutor. On their side is truth and humanity and justice. On the side of the persecutor is evil and deceit. And that is his weakness.
Whom would you send? Who would dare to go?
The little man waiting outside the door. Your office knows him.
Outside? Here? Well, ask him in.
Medical Counselor Gordon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Doctor. So you're the one, eh? What makes you think...
You see, many years ago, I was Himmler's physician. Even the Germans must be doctored, if you please. When Mr. Mazur approached me to arrange a meeting, I agreed to do what I could.
But Himmler, knowing your mission, do you think he would agree to see you?
I have reason to believe it.
So. And how do you plan to proceed, gentlemen?
Dr. Gordon will communicate at once with Hitler and request an interview somewhere in Germany.
I will need the sanction of the Foreign Office, even though I will travel secretly.
You already have done so much for our people, sir. Yet we ask your help again. May we count on you?
Of course. We will try everything. Even this. Begin your negotiations and keep in touch with me. Good luck, gentlemen.
Norbert, the phone.
I'll get them. Hello? Hello? Mazur speaking. Gordon, you just received word? Is it agreed? Yes, I understand. Yes, at once. Waiting is over. At last.
It came?
Yes, it came. A letter.
What did he say?
Gordon wouldn't talk. Not over the phone. Don't wait up for me, Anna. I may be late.
I could not sleep, Norbert. Tell me what happened.
Everything turned out just as we planned.
Himmler agreed to meet a representative?
Just so.
I cannot believe
Here's the letter Himmler sent to Gordon. Listen. My dear Dr. Gordon, I agree that this is a good time to discuss the problem of the Jews in Germany. You will be met at the Tempelhof Airport in Berlin on Friday, April 19th, and driven to the villa of Herr Joseph Gessler. If I may offer a suggestion.
Yes? Why do you hesitate?
Nothing. It goes on. If I may offer a suggestion, I believe our discussions would be more effective if you were accompanied here by a Jew.
Go on.
I, of course, promise him safe conduct into and out of Germany. Yours, Heinrich Himmler.
Is it a trick?
I don't know.
You're going. You don't have to hide.
I must go, Anna. You remember, to save even one life
is like unto saving the entire world.
Yes. You still remember.
Oh, no, but I'm afraid.
I, too.
How soon must you leave?
The plane leaves at noon.
Well, then we must hurry and pack. I'll make it light. After all, you'll be gone only a few days. Won't you, darling?
Yes, Anna. Only a few days.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moses said unto God, Who am I, that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt?
And after we reach the airport, then what?
We will probably be met by the Gestapo.
And then?
I don't know. Only Himmler and a few henchmen know of our little visit.
Only Himmler.
You are a brave man, Mazur.
Brave? No. I'm an ordinary, humble man. I know fear. Yet my hope is greater than my fear.
A little like Daniel entering the lion's den. What are you thinking of now?
Of my father. Of the time he was teaching me Hebrew. We came across a word. Zahus. He told me it had no single translation, that it meant a privilege, destiny, an honor. All in one word. I was puzzled that a word could have so many meanings. The Hus. That's how I feel about my mission to Himmler.
All right, next. Name?
Gordon. Dr. Gordon.
Passport?
Here it is.
From Sweden, huh? On special business in their eye. All in order. Next. Name, please.
Mazur. Norbert Mazur.
One moment. Gestapo. Allow him to pass. You will please follow me, gentlemen. This way. Into the car standing there. Chauffeur, to the manor house of Joseph Gessler. It's 60 kilometers. Try to get there before the race start. Pleasant trip, gentlemen. Heil Hitler.
Night had already set in. The moon was bright in the cloudless sky. The car raced through the dark city, the ruins of buildings towering ghost-like, through the suburbs that lay there like dead. It sped on past the rubble piles, the destroyed houses, the burnt fields.
Thus saith the Lord God, let my people go, that they may serve me. For if thou refuse to let them go, and wilt hold them still, behold, there will remain not any green thing, either tree or herb of the field, throughout all the land of Egypt.
I am Brigade Leader Schellenberg. It is a pleasure to meet you, Dr. Gordon.
Good day, Mr. Schellenberg.
And this is Herr Mazur.
Schellenberg.
I have the deepest sympathy for your errand here, Mr. Mazur.
Thank you.
And, Himmler, have you a message for us?
I have been asked to convey his deep regret that he is unable to be here himself to greet you. He is detained on state business with the Fuhrer.
There's nothing wrong, I hope.
Not at all. He will be here tomorrow morning at 10.
That's strange. We understood.
The leaders of the Reich have more important things than... But you must be tired, gentlemen, after your tedious trip. Your room is ready, and I trust you will sleep well, unless you are disturbed by raids. They've been most annoying lately. Good night, gentlemen.
This is unusual. Can it be a trick, Mazur?
No, Doctor. He'll be here. I know it in my heart. He will come. Because he is afraid.
That night, Norbert Mazur could not sleep. It was not the constant roar of planes on their way to Berlin that kept him awake. No. For he knew that unto his hand had been given the power of life or death. Life for thousands of his people if he succeeded. Certain death if he failed. He thought he could almost hear the prayers of the prisoners at Ravensbrück, only 30 miles away. And Norbert Mazur turned to God and prayed.
And Moses answered and said, But behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice. For they will say, The Lord hath not appeared unto thee. And the Lord said unto him, What is that in thy hand? And he said, A rod.
And the rod of Norbert Mazur was the justice of his cause. It was the suffering of his people. It was their faith.
It's Himmler. He's coming up the stairs.
Exactly 10 a.m. He looks older. Are you ready, Mazur? Do you know what you will say?
Yes, I think so. Let him speak first.
Guten Tag, gentlemen. Guten Tag. Ah, Doctor. It's good to see you again. It's been many years.
Guten Tag, Herr Himmler.
And this gentleman?
Norbert Mazur.
Ah, yes. Norbert Mazur. I have been very curious to meet you, Mr. Mazur.
The feeling was mutual, Herr Himmler.
Good. Then let us not stand on ceremony. Let us be comfortable. Hot coffee will be along soon. I shall take this big chair. It's been a hard day. These are bitter days for Germany.
Do you not agree, Mr. Mazur? I recall that these have been bitter years for many others. Bitter for the Poles, the French, the Jews. You come right to the problem, eh? Good. You must understand that in our generation, we have known no peace. The Poles, they are an inferior people. The French, they cannot govern themselves. The Jews were an alien element in our midst. I mean no offense to you, Mr. Mazur. After the Nazis came to power, we wanted to solve these questions once and for all. I, of course, favored the humane solution through immigration. Emigration into concentration camps, Herr Himmler? That name. These camps received a bad reputation because of their name. Better to call them educational camps. It was sheer necessity, you understand. Furthermore, something the doctor here can understand, the ignorant masses were infected with contagious disease. We understand, Herr Himmler. We understand only too well. If you knew these thoughts in my mind as I watch you, the mighty inquisitor, your words enslaved the continent, your name glowed as an evil flame. Leader they called you, conquered by cruelty and fear, thriving on cruelty. Here in this room, you stand revealed as coward and weakling. And in order to check these epidemics among the prisoners, we were compelled to burn the corpses. For this reason, we built crematoria, to protect the safety of the remaining persons. A humanitarian act which had been twisted by outside propaganda. Explain your crimes, Herr Himmler. Find your reasons. Tell the world your lies. The noose around your neck grows tighter as you talk. Explain away your murder, the million tortured, thrown alive and screaming into the flames. You would burn 1,000 years for your crimes and not repay the living. I must admit that, some unpleasant things have happened. But I have taken steps to punish those responsible. Now your time has come, Himmler. You are now on trial before the world, before the million dead, and your guilt is deep in your bones. And so you plead your case before me, a Jew, a single man, flesh of their flesh. Why do you not kill me too? Because you fear me, Norbert Mazur. I stand before you, spokesman of my people, the anger of their ghosts, the righteousness of their cause. You fear me because you know you cannot destroy truth. Why are you staring at me, Mr. Mazur? Nothing. I'm listening, Himmler. Listening. And I further ask that my people still in Germany shall remain alive. I request that those who are in camps near Switzerland or Sweden be released for evacuation to either of these countries, including the 7,000 women from Ravensbrück concentration camp. Also, there is more, that in other camps, the prisoners be allowed to remain where they are. That they be treated well in regard to food, medical care. And that the camps... Still more. Did you come here to tell the Third Reich how to handle it? The camps be yielded to the Allies without a fight, when and if the front draws near. We cannot guarantee. In the middle of a war, we feel that our demands are more than reasonable, Herr Himmler. Come, Mr. Mazur. It's a strong request. Very strong. My duty insists that I make them, Herr Himmler. We have lost the war, yes. But history has its cycles. And who knows, but someday the spirit of the Third Reich will be born again. We will win the next time, gentlemen. Yes, your demands will be met. We will begin to release the prisoners at once. And now your car is waiting to take you to the airport.
As they boarded the plane, the warning of sirens screamed through the darkness over the city. Retribution had come, by day and by night. The Allied planes from east and west striking at this city. And out on the streets and roads poured the wagons loaded with household goods, the loot of all Europe. And the frightened people, once merciless, now begging for mercy.
how the city burns with its madness and false gods. Evil destroys itself.
Today you should feel happy.
Unhappy for the handful we helped save from this Gehenna. Yet inside I weep for my people, for all the slaughtered and burned and tortured. Who can ever forget them, Dr. Gordon? Can the world ever forget those millions? Each one a man, a life, gone forever.
And we must remember, not only were these pitiful few redeemed, but you and I were redeemed. Therefore, the Haggadah enjoins us forever after that in each generation we must retell the story of the bondage as if we ourselves had been redeemed from Egypt.
If you would like a free copy of the script you have just heard, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. And now we present Dr. Paul Wright, Rabbi of Congregation Bethel, Norfolk, Virginia. Speaking from Norfolk, Dr. Wright.
As the plane carrying the emissaries of mercy winged its way over the desolation of Germany, Norbert Mazur envisaged the triumph of justice over iniquity. The hand of God had not waxed short. True indeed, the 6 million dead could not be restored to life, but there was comfort in the knowledge that others would not meet a similar fate. We live too close to the events of the modern Egypt to properly evaluate their great moral significance. But this fact is most evident. The only obstacle to the complete and utter annihilation of the 9 million Jews caught in the Nazi octopus was the destruction of German military might. Had the Allies been delayed in victory for another year, all would have perished. We are reminded of the words of the Passover Haggadah. If the Holy One, blessed be He, had not brought forth our fathers out of Egypt, then we, our children and our children's children, might still be enslaved to a Pharaoh in Egypt. During the 8 days of Passover, Julie thanks God for the redemption from Egyptian slavery and from every slavery imposed on Israel, from Pharaoh to Heinrich Himmler. But how much greater would our joy be if Israel's liberation and the liberation of all persecuted peoples could be achieved through a peaceful organization of mankind into a world society founded on justice and brotherly love, in which every man would be able to sit under his vine and under his fig tree, and there would be none to make him afraid. We pray that the leaven of evil and of malice be removed from the hearts of men as we go forward to greet the springtime of human freedom.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. Our Eternal Light story today, adapted for radio by Hedda Roston, was entitled Out of Their Bondage and was based on an incident in the life of Norbert Mazur. Peter Capell was featured in the role of Norbert Mazur. The music is composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Cadens. The liturgical introduction was sung by cantor Robert H. Siegel. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. For a free copy of today's script, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This program is a weekly presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations in cooperation with the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.